Sound check 1 2 3. Sound check 1 2 3.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting of October 20th, 2025. As we have quorum present for today's meeting, I would like to call this meeting to order. And a reminder to all of us that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during this committee meeting. Ceremonial activities, we really don't have one, but I want to address some of our guests that are here today. We have CFEM, which stands for Canadian Foundation Engineering Manual. Their leader program is here, designed to develop future leaders through a succession planning approach, combining in-class and on-site learning experiences. The program includes guest speakers, workshop, a practical assignment aimed at enhancing leadership skills. Attendance at the PW committee meeting is part of the program, and we welcome them here today. Welcome. Currently, we have 14 participants ranging from frontline staff to supervisors across the division are engaged in the programs, which began in March. Sessions take place every alternate Wednesday at various city facilities, with a total of 16 sessions scheduled throughout 2025. And as a committee, we want to welcome you here today. Thank you. We're going to keep going, but I also want to mention something that I'm sad as one of the counselors, that Carol Ryle is leaving to go for other opportunities. And I want to say something that, Carolyn, every time I've called you, you've answered the phone. Not only that, you're the most hands-on director I've ever met in Public Works. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for helping me out, even coming to my meetings and talking to my residents. You were always congenial and very positive. So I want to say all the best to you and your future. So thank you. Okay, we're going to keep going, and approval of the agenda. May I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as presented? Councillor Cooper and Councillor Beatty, thank you. Is there any discussions?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I have an additional notice of motion. Apologies for not getting it on the agenda last week. I did circulate it to committee members. It is identical to the notice of motion Councillor Tattison's bringing forward, except to do a crosswalk in the Dundas area with a Ward 13 funding source. So if committee approves, I'd seek to add that to the agenda under notices of motion.
Okay, so we're going to approve it as amended. So everybody show of hand to approve as amended. Everybody? Okay, so it's carried. Okay, declaration of interest. Are there any declaration of interest? I don't see any, so we're going to move on. Approval of the minutes of previous meetings, September 29, 2025. May I please have a mover and a second to adopt the previous meeting? Councillor Spadafora, Councillor Beatty, thank you. Is there any discussions? I don't see any, so show of hands, please. And it's carried. Thank you. Okay, before we begin our delegation for today's members, are reminded that the question of the delegations are for clarification purpose only, not for debate. A note to our delegates. You have 5 minutes to complete your delegation. You will hear a tone after 4 minutes, and then you will have an additional minute to finish up. So I would like to call Chris Moore, respecting safety concern regarding the intersection of Center Road and Mountsburg Road in Ward 15 in person. Welcome, Chris, and you have 5 minutes, and after you hear the bell, keep going. I will tell you when 5 minutes is up. So thank you for coming.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Is the presentation up somewhere? No. I sent it Friday before noon, but I can talk from my slides. No, I emailed it Friday before noon, so I'd make the addendum, but that's okay.
We, if you want, we could quickly try to find it if you've mailed it, or...
Sure.
When it's, you know, respecting safety concern, I think all our ears are up listening, so we would like to see the presentation. Thank you for your patience. We'll have it up there. I want to thank you, Sal and Carrie, for doing that. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very
We
much.
have the best here.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Here to talk about our little corner of Hamilton, Mountsburg, and Center Road. I've never spent time on that side of the horseshoe, but I've spent 25 years on this side of the horseshoe in municipal government. So I know what you do is very difficult and challenging, and I thank you for taking 5 minutes to listen. My presentation is titled 22 Days Accident-Free, so I'm happy about that. Over the last 12 months, at the intersection, the two-way intersection of Mountsburg and Center Road, there's been 3 accidents, one October 4th, September 13th, and September 28th. All 2-car collisions. It's been daytime, clear conditions, no skid marks. I am not a traffic engineer. I can't tell you what happened. But every time we hear that sound as residents of the village of Mountsburg, we literally run out of our homes to see what's going on. As you can imagine, it takes some time for resources to respond. Center Road between Parkside and Campbellville, as you probably know, is a truck route, which is fine. It's busy. It's a truck route. It's a school bus route. It's a bicycle route. And it's a fairly busy road. During that stretch of road, there's 4 intersections with 4-way stops, 3 with 2-way, and 3 with traffic lights. Can't tell you how that happened, but we're at the one where it's a 2-way, and there's been 3 accidents in the last 12 months. Posted speed through there is 70 kilometers, and I don't have a radar gun. I don't have the money to buy one, but I tell you, people go faster than that. It's a solid yellow line, both north and south of that intersection, and there's some no passing signs, so that probably means that there shouldn't be any passing. We hear frequent honking from cross traffic. That's kind of the early warning sign to say, do we need to run out and see if there's been an accident? School bus route, as I talked about. There's frequent semi-trailer traffic on Mountsburg, and it's not delivery, mostly because Highway 6 and 401, when they back up, the traffic comes to Campbellville and then it comes to Mountsburg. the interesting thing about the intersection, there's a fair bit of visual blocking. So I pulled up, the picture on the left is from my vehicle stopping at the stop sign. You can see that things are blocked up the road, south and north. If I pull forward to see, I'm actually moving into the intersection. That's why we think there's a lot of honking going on. Coming west up Mountsburg towards Center Road, the view on the approach, it's 234 feet before you can see the stop sign. It's blocked by the hydro pole and the road slope there. So if you're traveling the speed limit, which not a lot of people do, you got 4.4 seconds to stop before you hit the intersection. I tried your FOI process, and it didn't really work for me because, as you'll see in the presentation, I asked for a lot of information about the incident on October 4th, and it said there was no files on reference. I have some files if you need them for your files. But all I can imagine is it costs a lot of money to dispatch police, ambulance, fire. I do have an FOI request in at Hamilton Police. If I do get any useful information, I'll come back to committee on that. I can't tell you how much Hydro One spent replacing the pole on October 4th last year, but I'm sure it was tens of thousands of dollars. Plus, there's personal injury costs, rehabilitation, et cetera. You can see my FOI request. I did that so I could provide useful information to you, but I didn't get any information because I was told by the clerk's office that there were no records. I have been involved in many FOI requests. I've been the target of FOI requests in my municipal career. I know the value of it, but there was no value for us in this. So my request to the committee would be to ask transportation staff to review it. Now, last Thursday at 2 o'clock, I think 2 staff were out looking at the intersection. It was an unmarked vehicle, so I wasn't sure if it was City of Hamilton staff. They walked around, took some pictures, so maybe you do have some information, which would be helpful. But also recommending four-way stop, dealing with the blind spots, and maybe even posting some signage, if you can't afford the four-way stop, to say that it's only a two-way stop. My concern is risk management. I don't need to tell you about your past and court cases and the legal cost, but most importantly, in 7 seconds, your Vision Zero would be very valuable in this intersection, so thank you. That's it.
Oh, you have 4 seconds. Where to go? Thank you. All right. Is there any questions from the committee? Okay. Councillor McMeekin, please.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. And Chris, thanks for coming before us and for your intervention here. I'm familiar with that road, and I take it from your presentation, let me just confirm this, that most of the accidents were traffic traveling west going through the intersection and hitting somebody. Is that?
Through the chair, I wish I was a traffic engineer because I could figure it out. But from what I can tell is that the one on October 4th, somebody was traveling south on Center Road, okay, and I believe the person traveling west on Mountsburg did not know it was a stop, so they went through. That's the one that took out the hydro pole.
Okay, so I think the suggestion for a four-way stop, I'm not a traffic engineer either, but for the record, let me just say, I think it makes some sense. And if there's a significant blind spot or an abundance of people not understanding that there's a stop there, maybe even some kind of flashing light indicating a stop as well. If that were to be the case, if you were to put a flashing light on one part of that intersection, what side would you put it on?
Through the chair, Councillor, I would put it on kind of the east and westbound of Mountsburg, because I think that's where the issue is.
Yeah. And speeding is a significant issue there too.
Yes, yes. And when I meet with the police, I'll suggest they, besides doing the radar trap at Balaclava School, they actually move it up to Center Road in Mountsburg. It might be more fruitful.
One of the things we've been struggling with here at Council, and I suspect you're probably aware of it, is the idea of mobile speed cameras and on concession roads in particular, some of the hypothetical thinking is even a short time ticketing people would have a copycat sort of understanding of maybe I should slow down. But unfortunately, we're now in a situation where the only enforcement is Hamilton Police. Very expensive, as you might imagine, to have an officer there with a cone measuring speed all day. Anyhow, thanks for coming. I'm looking forward to our Director of Transportation, who I want to echo your comments, Madam Chair, about Carolyn Royale. I've found her to be an exceptional public servant as well, always receptive and anxious to do anything and everything she can to support councillors and the citizens we're privileged to represent on safety issues. People like Chris, who's before us today. So thank you, Chris, and thank you again, Carolyn.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper? No. Oh, Carolyn, I thought you were pointing that way. Okay, Director.
Through the chair, Carolyn Royale, Director of Transportation. So thank you, Chris, for coming into the city today, and thank you, Councillor. We've worked very closely with your office. Maybe I could just provide a little bit of context of the next steps that transportation is already underway doing. So we received a request on September 29th from a resident with regards to the incident that happened out there, and we received the FOI request on October 1st. Staff have since been out. They have been monitoring the intersection. They have put into works a traffic count that'll be underdone so we can understand what's actually happening out on the roadway, and from there we can determine if an all-way stop is needed. There are recs that are already, requisitions are already being put into place to deal with, you showed a sightline issue, so we noted that as well. Thank you. That's going, those will be cut back pretty immediate due to the safety concern. We've also indicated some advanced warning signage that will be installed. So there's already work underway with regards to the email, Councillor, that you sent, and Chris, the information that you've provided. With regards to the collision history, I did pull the 5-year collision history. There have been 4 incidences between 2020 and 2024, and it's fair to say anything more recent, we just don't have access to that quite yet. We need to work with MTO, and that takes 3 to 6 months for us to get that information, Chris. So we'll follow up with MTO, and again, decisions will be made based on that information. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And any other question? Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your delegation. My comments have to be in the form of a question. So did you know that I really appreciate you raising the cost, social and otherwise, of collisions? And Statistics Canada pegs the cost of collisions at $36 billion annually. The Canadian Council of Motor Transportation Administrators actually pegs it at $40 billion annually, and that includes healthcare costs, emergency service, lost time due to work. So I really appreciate you underscoring that, and if you were interested in pursuing that, it's all available. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone else, so thank you for coming, and again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, 6.2, Josh Melfi, Respecting Report PW 17021, update roadway safety measures on Aberdeen and Queen Street to Longwood Road. Welcome.
Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me?
Oh, you're up there. Thank you.
Yeah,
Virtual.
I'm a virtual person.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, you have 5 minutes.
Excellent. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Josh Melfi. I live on Aberdeen Avenue, just west of Lock Street. I'm here today as a father, as a neighbor, and a longtime resident who cares deeply about the safety of our community. First, I want to acknowledge all the work that has gone into making Hamilton Street safer. The city's ongoing efforts and the recent report on Aberdeen Avenue are all steps in the right direction. But for those who live on Aberdeen and walk it every day, these measures have not gone far enough. Aberdeen isn't just a road, it's a street that's lined with homes and families and is the only walking route to schools and shops for hundreds of residents. Every day, or every weekday morning, 665 children between the ages of 5 and 19 cross Aberdeen to reach one of 5 nearby schools. And many of them do this at least 10 times a week. While the city's reports show that some improvement since the pilot had been made since the pilot, the bigger picture remains troubling. Between 2008 and 2019, there were 466 collisions on Aberdeen between Queen and Longwood, 15 involving pedestrians and 5 involving cyclists. That's a collision rate of 4.7 per million vehicle kilometers, which is nearly 5 times higher than what's considered safe for a road like this. And these numbers aren't just data points, they represent what residents feel and witness every day. The stretch between Dundurn and Loch specifically, especially on the south side, feels particularly unsafe. There is no barrier between the sidewalk and the road, and most vehicles, including buses and large trucks, drive very close to the curb, often well above the speed limit. You can literally feel the wind as they pass by. It's unsettling walking your children down a sidewalk when one mistake could mean tragedy. I've seen it happen time and time again, kids dropping a ball and then darting towards it as a car flies by, or drivers weaving unpredictably because they can't tell if a parked car is moving. And most recently, as of this past Friday, a car lost control during a school zone period, which is supposed to be 40 kilometers an hour, went over a curb, across the sidewalk, over a lawn, and into a tree. And we have it on video, and I would like to show that clip now, actually. So I'll share my screen, and hopefully that will work. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this footage shows Aberdeen Avenue from a home on the south side of Dundurn, or the south side between Dundurn and Loch. And I want you to focus on the right side of your screen behind this white silver car. Or silver car. There it is.
Wow. Oh.
So you see the vehicle comes into view, it's moving far too fast, it jumps the curb, it crosses the sidewalk, it tears into the front lawn, and it hits a tree hard. And then as the driver's still coming out, you can see on your right-hand side of the screen, a group of children then walk by that same sidewalk heading to school. There's actually a few groups that come right after this. Had they left their homes just a few seconds earlier, this could have been a major tragedy. And this is a reality live in. And while no one was hurt, Loch is not a safety plan. Here, I'll stop sharing my screen. A little bit more to say. I've read the update on the roadway safety measures on Aberdeen Avenue, and the city has made progress, but progress isn't the same as safety. The on-street parking strategy, for example, it was meant to calm traffic, but without clear markings or signage, it's kind of confusing and dangerous. When only one car is parked, drivers mistake it for a moving vehicle, causing sudden lane changes and jumping in between lanes, like the one you just saw. And almost no one parks on the south side of the street between Dundurn and Loch, the side that you saw in the video closest to the camera, because everyone knows it's unsafe. You don't feel good about parking your car there or walking out of it. We need strong interim measures now, not in 2027, as the road's going to be replanned then. Simple low-cost steps could help immediately. I'm not an expert, but clear paint and signage for parking lanes so drivers understand where parking is and encourage more people to use it. We could reduce the road to 2 consistent lanes to prevent speeding, especially along those dangerous stretches like between Dundurn and Loch, or just even on the south side where there is no barrier, or potentially look to add curb bump outs or physical barriers along the road where there is no barrier along that sidewalk there. These are realistic, affordable changes that could prevent serious harm and show residents that safety truly comes first. Aberdeen has been studied and piloted and analyzed, but what's missing is urgency. We can't afford to wait 2 more years and hope that no one gets hurt. There are hundreds of children, seniors, and families who use this road every day, and they deserve to feel safe in their own neighborhood. Hamilton's Vision Zero strategy is about preventing tragedy before it happens, and I'm asking the committee to make that vision real here, now, on Aberdeen. Thank you all for listening, and thanks for your continued commitment to making our city safer for everyone.
Josh, thank you. Thank you for showing that video. It was shocking and it was impactful, and we need to do something. So thank you for showing that. That really brought it home for me. I was shocked to see that. So I'm going to ask some of the councillors are on the waiting list here. Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your honest remarks. Thank you to Delegate Melfi for being here. If I can ask just some questions. I thought I heard the delegate say that he has children. Is that the case?
That's right. I have 2 children, and I live just next to that house that you saw the video on.
Okay, thank you. When you're walking on the sidewalk with your kids, are you able to have a conversation with them? Can you hear their voices?
No, it's way far too busy. I'm constantly just hanging on to them for dear life and making sure that they don't run away from me as we're walking down the street until we can cross and get to the north side where there is a barrier.
And I don't know if your children are of school age, but I'm assuming if they're not, they will be, and you'll have to make that crossing in order to get to one of the schools, whether it be separate, public, or otherwise?
That's right, yeah. My youngest goes to Earl Kitchener, so I have to walk by it every day, both to and from, and my youngest is in daycare at Lionsgate, which is a couple doors down, which should be a pretty safe walk, but I have to walk along this side of the sidewalk to get there.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate that. Why do you walk? Why can't you just drive?
Because it's close, and walking is a way better way to get around and less congestion on the streets. I feel everyone should walk when they can.
Thank you for that. I think I just wanted to make sure I clearly understood to Delegate Melfi your request moving forward in advance of the roads redesign in 2027. First of all, you're asking for some clear paint and signage markings for the parking. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. Right now there's no signage that indicate that you can park there. The north side of the street where you saw the accident, more people do use the parking because there's it just feels safer on that side of the road because there's a little bit more room. But on the south side of the street, absolutely no one parks there. They don't even drop off packages on that. They will park down Mountain, which is the next street over, to deliver packages.
Yeah, you know, when the UPS driver is not stopping, it's a sign. Thank you. And so your second point is you'd like some sort of intervention such that it functions or is designed as it presently functions, which is two lanes, one east, one west. Is that correct? And how would you like that done?
That would be ideal. I understand this is a main artillery road and there is lots of traffic, but currently during busy hours, it already functions as just a two-way. So I'm suggesting that during these stretches of high danger zone where there's no barrier between the sidewalk and a lot of kids cross to go to school between Dundurn and Locke, that it's potentially looked at as a two-way so that there is a barrier between the sidewalk and the cars. If that isn't possible, then creating some sort of barrier with potentially concrete bump outs along the sidewalk on that south side, so that there's a little bit of safety in place. And I feel cars, if there is something a little bit taller there, they will recognize that and they'll go a little bit slower.
No, thank you. And so I think to that point, if I could through the chair, you're describing curb kind of concrete bump outs similar to what we're seeing along Main, for example. Is that the case through the chair?
Yeah, is that for me? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. And you'll see it sometimes with bike lanes. They have those curb bump outs with almost poles or flags. I can see that going at the end of the sidewalk as well. Anything really to create a barrier.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Those are my questions. Again, my note of thanks to Delegate Melfi for coming, for sharing that video, which, as he noted, just happened this past Friday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kassar, please.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, thank you, Josh, for being here and sharing that very shocking video. It's not the first time we've dealt with at this committee a street filled with residences that is classified as an arterial road, which you acknowledge, and I believe that is the classification, either major or minor arterial road. And even in the report, as you acknowledge, there are some improvements. There is a focus from the city, Vision Zero, to make some changes to make things safer. But I noted in the report, it's very focused on vehicles and delays. Is there delays in the network to vehicles? It doesn't really talk about children and people. So specific to the designation of the road, it's an arterial road. Do children refer to that? I mean, it's a bit of a loaded question. Do children refer to this as an arterial road? And if not, how do they regard this Aberdeen Road where they live?
Just a regular street that they need to walk down, and they need to cross it to get to school, to get to any of the shops. Anybody on South Kirkendale has to walk across that street to get to anywhere they need to go if they're walking.
Right. So they regard it, Chair, as their neighborhood, where they live, and a place for them to be and play and get to school, all those sorts of things. Thank you. And then secondly, so you've taken the step here to come speak to committee and share your opinions and thoughts and ideas. Can you share, are you able to share, do your neighbors, other parents of children at the schools or the daycare, have they expressed any views on this matter?
Everybody I've spoke to is on the exact same page as I am. As soon as this accident happened, all the neighbors were out and everybody shared footage of their Ring cameras to share with me because I wanted to bring this forth. And everybody that we talk to at school at Earl Kitchener, we talk about what is the best way to get here, avoiding walking down Aberdeen. Like, is it better to walk through our backyard into another backyard and walk all the way around to Dundurn and cross at Dundurn? There's extreme measures going on because this stretch of the street is too dangerous for kids to walk on.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for highlighting this. I think it's very helpful to really put a spotlight on where we're at and where we need to be. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks.
I don't know if Director Raya would say something, implementation, or have you looked at it, or?
Through the chair, Carolyn Ryle, Director of Transportation. So I want to thank the delegate for coming today. There has been work that's been underway on this corridor as far back as 2017, appreciating that the safety concerns were raised. And the intent of the report today was just to highlight the progression of those safety measures that the division has been putting in place over the years based on our review and our analysis, appreciating that some of the review was done through the pandemic, which is why we're coming forth today with just an overview of what the division has done in those results. So I did want to share, we work very closely with Councillor Maureen Wilson in her office on Aberdeen. It is a road and a stretch that we talk about with quite a bit of frequency. And there are interim improvements in addition that are coming forward. We're targeting 2025 pending a few things such as weather. We are looking to put 5 bump outs protecting the parking area. So that is something that we're working to implement as soon as possible. We are looking to reduce the corner radii at Mountain and Fairmont, improve transit stop visibility and accessibility is something else we're working towards, and then we are looking to put updated pavement marking. So it seems that the items that you've spoken to were in play in consultation with the councillor's office and implementing, but we're also happy, councillor, if you can forward that video maybe to the councillor so that I can share that with staff, and while we're implementing those different measures, I would welcome an opportunity for staff to come out and speak with yourself and others maybe on other works we can do until the full reconstruction, which is still a year or 2 out.
Thank you, Director. And Josh, thanks again. I don't think there's no one else on the speakers list, but I want to thank you for coming and sharing that video. It really opened our eyes.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, now may I please have a mover and a seconder to receive the delegations. Councillor Maureen Wilson and Councillor Kassar. Thank you. And show of hands, everyone. Okay, thank you. It's passed. Okay, items for information. May I please have a mover and a seconder to put items 7.1 to 7.5 on the floor. Councillor Francis, Councillor Spadafora, thank you. Is there any questions on any of these items? I don't see any, so, there's not.
Chair, just to clarify, this is item 7.1 to 7.5, so item 7.2 would be appropriate?
Sure, yes.
Just kind of reading through that, I'm sorry, it was actually 7.1, surface water quality.
Okay.
Just reading through that report, one thing I'm kind of surprised at, I didn't see really any linkage to, we have the Upper Ottawa landfill and known to be some interesting stuff in the ground there, and you start to see some of the what could be potential impacts in the water quality and some of the surface water. I'm just wondering, are we able to go back to any root cause? Is there anything coming back to the Upper Ottawa Street landfill that's starting to show itself in some of these surface water quality reports?
Thank you, Councillor. We're going to, is Nick Winters here? Director of Water, or?
Good afternoon, Carrie Vanderperk, Director of Watershed Management. I'm here for Nick today.
Okay.
So we do have some robust data on the various landfills that do have an impact on our infrastructure. So it's something that we continue to monitor. We also have quite a few folks out there who are members of the public who monitor these pieces of data quite frequently as well and bring them to our attention. But yes, we're looking at them and we're understanding better and better every year as we build our data sets, what the water quality data is telling us. And then once we have a really good data set established, then we can start to look at impacts and also what we can do to mitigate those impacts.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper?
So at this point, we don't know if there's really any worsening of the situation with respect to the landfill or just what those impacts are, because we're just going through a study. What's your thought in terms of when we'll start being able to report back on impacts?
Through the chair, I think it's really important to have a good, broad data set. And right now, we just don't have that with the last, I think it was 3 or 4 years. So we're looking at least 5 years of data before we can start to understand what the trends look like and what the impacts look like for the water quality in the areas where we have landfills and it's not just landfills, but it's also other city infrastructure that would impact our surface water.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Councillor Maureen Wilson, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm on, I think it's item 7.3.
7.3? Okay,
the Aberdeen report, whatever number that is.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. If I could, first of all, just ask for a high-level overview. We've already had discussion of it somewhat in terms of the forthcoming proposed interventions in advance, but I would appreciate some of us who may not be as familiar with this file, an overview, Chair.
Yes.
Point of order, Chair. Sorry, not anything that you're saying, but shouldn't we finish off 7.1 first?
Oh,
I think, there's no one else in my speakers list.
Sorry, yeah, I'm more than happy to
We
hold.
should.
I didn't
Sorry,
realize.
I was trying to put mine in
Okay.
as we're.
All right. I don't know what happened there, but you're not on the list here. That's why I went to Councillor Wilson. So is everything okay? Keep going. Okay, I think, okay, Councillor Patterson on 7.1, please.
I'm just trying to get a scope of the project. I read through it, and I noticed that, very in depth on all the watersheds that cover and go through Hamilton, but the ones out in Ward 11, I know that's handled by the NPCA. So is that why why it's not incorporated into the Hamilton City Watershed Study, because it's handled by the NPCA?
So through the chair, I would think about this more as a program than a project. And just as a bit of a reminder, the surface water quality program was born out of the Shadow Creek combined sewer spill that occurred. And it was one of our corrective and preventative actions so that we could have a really good understanding of what the water quality looked like from impacts of city infrastructure, so that, if something was out of the normal characterization or characteristics of surface water quality, we would know ahead of time. So yes, we do work very closely with the conservation authorities, with the universities as well. Some of the universities have pretty robust sampling programs that they do with their students, and we work together to make sure that we're sharing data, and so that their data is incorporated and our data is also incorporated to their programs. So right across both the Niagara, or not both, but the Niagara, the Hamilton, and the Halton Conservation Authorities, all that data is shared.
Thanks. I just wanted to note, it does say Surface Water Quality Program 2024 Annual Update, and it says citywide. And so I just wanted to highlight that. If it's going to be citywide, it probably should incorporate the other areas as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now on 7.1, anybody else before I move on? Okay, I don't see any. So 7.3, Councillor Maureen Wilson, please.
Spare you from my droney voice. My question is the same, first of all. Thank you.
Thank you. Director.
Through the chair, Carolyn Ryle, Director of Transportation. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. So maybe I can start by saying that there was direction given to staff as far back as 2017, as I had earlier mentioned, looking to address a series of safety items that had been raised to see what could be done in an interim strategy to deal with the safety concerns that were being raised. Those included a new pedestrian signal, modifications to on-street parking, changes to pavement markings, and adjustments to traffic signal timing. Since 2017, staff again were directed in 2019 to look at the corridor as they continue to monitor it, with the request to do additional safety implementation measures on the interim until the road was to be reconstructed. And in 2019, these included a leading pedestrian interval at the intersection of Aberdeen Avenue and Dundurn for pedestrian crossing. There was a morning no right-hand turn on red restriction on the west side where the crossing guards were. There was removal of on-street parking on both sides of Aberdeen to reduce conflicts in support of the Vision Zero principles. And then there was a flashing 40 that was put on Aberdeen between Queen and Longwood. Since that time, there had been the pilot, so staff had been out there, and again, the pandemic had influence of the different metrics and the different counts we were doing out there, hence why they went out after the pandemic to see what, in addition, they were finding. The report speaks to concerns around safety and the decreases that we found. It talked to whether the on-street parking had any benefit or not. It talked to some of the infiltration and using other accesses to go up the mountain. That was also a concern. The report speaks to that. And coming from the many conversations we've had with yourself and constituents in the area, we also are looking to implement those different remaining items that we spoke to in 2025, again, pending a few things and dealing with getting a contractor assigned and dealing with pending weather. So there have been a long list of different strategic safety measures that we feel, when we've rolled them up over the years in evaluating the pilot minus the pandemic, there have been improvements made in the area. It's not to say that we've improved everything fully, hence all of this information is being transferred and has been transferred over to our colleagues in engineering who we work closely with the redesign and the full reconstruction. Obviously, we want to take the benefits of this and roll that into that future reconstruction for the safe use of all users, in particular our vulnerable road users moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. Just on that last point, what often gets lost, and then I will have a question, but what often gets lost in our efforts to make our streets safer is that point about all users. There were drivers in that car on that video. So yes, it was shocking to see what you couldn't see in the video were the children who came before, but you started to see the pedestrian traffic coming after. So when we do these installations, when we provide and encourage and have this level of advocacy, it is for all users. Just wanted to make that point. If I could ask through you to Director Ryle, the interventions or the request made from Delegate Melfi, I heard pavement markings, bump out installations to kind of delineate the fact that there is parking here, tightening of radii. Could you just speak to when those interventions are to be put in place, please, through the chair?
Through the chair, so we're attempting to do them in 2025. So I'll get back to Councillor just a little bit, like I said, on the logistics with the award to the contractor and then the pending weather that we're coming up against. With regards to the bump outs for the parking, there might be something in addition we can do just based on the footage I saw today and some of the other things. So I think what we'll do is we'll have an offline conversation with yourself on the specific timing. The intent is 2025, and there might be some other things that we can do more on an interim basis, just based on some of the footage I saw today.
Thank you. And Chair, to your gracious remarks, recognizing Director Ryle's contribution, that is very much the style and substance of the director, in that it is problem-solving orientation. So let's take what's been active, let's continue to lean into continuous improvement, and it's never no, it's let's look, let's discover, let's try and make it better within the realm of the possible. So I'm very, very appreciative of that. Just my closing remarks on this is Aberdeen is kind of like the equivalent of a wildlife corridor, in the sense that we can go about and do a whole bunch of city building, but it is and has always been the pathway for children and people. And so that pathway in particular, as Delegate Melfi mentioned, is 665 kids between the ages of 5 and 19 have to cross that street because they're going to the library, they're going to the daycare, or they're going to the 5 nearby schools, a minimum of 10 times a day. And if you're a bit of a nerd like me and you go back in the Spectator archives, you're going to find clippings from the 70s and the early 80s on this street. And you're going to find neighbors advocating for better. And I don't think it's a testament of a city that is upholding its vision to be the best place to raise a child when parents have to go out of their way to try and find and traverse through backyards in order to avoid a public street. That is not the answer. I welcome this report. The measures have had some success. It has not had any negative externalities or spillovers on other wards, and the interventions that are forthcoming and the willingness of the director to continue to work on making things continuously better up and until that redesign comes is very welcome. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, on 7.3, I think I have Councillor Cooper on 7.3. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I see the study ended in 2022, and of course we're in 2025 now. Why did we stop studying what traffic flows along this street?
Director?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for the question. We went out and did a recent study that was included in the report as well that helped us with the formulation for 2025. So even though that we've documented that we did the count in 2022, we went back out, did another one that we reviewed with the ward office, and then we've come back with additional 2025 measures.
Councillor?
Could you ensure that we see that 2025 data? Also, with respect to this report, I note in here Ward 8 volumes decreased along this street. Wondering where that volume ended up.
Director?
Through the chair, so that's a good question. We did do, I think that's something I'd like to take offline and we can bring back to you, Councillor.
Okay.
Is that okay, Councillor?
Yes, we can take this offline, of course, but I guess what I'm looking at, so every time we do something, to every action, there's a reaction. And interested in these kind of reports in terms of where that reaction's happening and just what that impact on the safety in that area is also occurring, because, make one area better, but we end up with a problem somewhere else. I mean, we just need to approach these things in a holistic way. So we'll definitely take it off, Chair. Thank you.
That would be great. So that's good. Councillor Kassar, 7.3.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Maureen Wilson's comments, and I think we're making progress. It's been a long time coming, and this is just the current example in Aberdeen that's at committee today, but it could apply to many places across the city. And just to pick up on the comments I was making with our delegate, there's a lot in the report around improving safety, and there's been steps that have been taken, and there's been evaluations that have been done, and we've heard that there's more work to be done. But there's a lot of commentary in the report about the impact of traffic. But as we heard from our delegate, there wasn't consideration about how that's impacting the parents walking with their kids to school. So I'd just like to ask staff about how that can be incorporated, or what's the standard today that we use, because we didn't see how it's affecting people in their opinion, and are people afraid to walk to school? Are they taking alternate routes? And so that's the past, maybe that's how we've done things in the past, but going forward, particularly in this instance, we have a real example. How can we evaluate the impact on people walking or riding to school and get their feedback on whether things are working for them, rather than just relying on collisions? Because we saw a great example. There was a collision, but there was also a very near miss on a potential serious injury or fatality that hasn't got recorded. And I'm sure there are many other examples where data doesn't get captured, just like our first delegate was kind of mentioning. So we miss all that. So the question succinctly is, how can we get feedback from people who are living in the neighborhood about how they're feeling about safety and the decisions they're making, rather than just relying on collision data?
Well, Director, I don't know if you want to answer this or take it offline, but go ahead.
Through the chair. So maybe I can just start with, and Councillor Kassar, we've worked closely with your office as well. So a lot of the work we do comes through inquiry based. So whether it's a resident coming through the office, or it's something that the ward office is flagging specifically, that draws our attention to going out and doing some additional, we'll say, legwork to understand what the conditions are out in the roadway. So in the case of Aberdeen, it has been a very collaborative and an ongoing conversation from 2017 till now that highlights all of the pre, post, during analysis and work that's been done. And a lot of that was fed through comments that came directly through the ward office and the concerns that the ward office were raising to us directly. So it has been and will continue to be a corridor that we talk about based on the feedback that the ward office is receiving. And then again, that's helping us form some of the work planning and some of the additional work we're doing out on site. So what I would recommend and ask is that, is that the public continue to go through the ward office, or they contact traffic ops directly, where any concerns on safety, again, we log and we queue them, and then we work with the ward office and the resident to understand those concerns. And again, if there's an opportunity to speak with multiple residents on a stretch, we've had many conversations in what that form may look like. We're always open to that, to help bring light to a situation, to figure out how we can put an interim solution in place or correct for something until there's a longer solution, if that's what's required down the road.
Thank you, Director. Councillor, are you okay? Good. Okay, Councillor Taddison, please.
Done for 7.3?
Oh, 7.3. Are we done for 7.3? I don't see. Okay. Councillor Kretsch, he's not on my list, so 7.3.
It's formally on the list, but yeah, I put it in there, sorry.
Well, it wasn't on my list, so thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My question is following on what Councillor Kassar said. So trying to understand a little bit more how we measure these things. So I hear what you're saying in terms of we can go and we can have conversations with people, right? And that's great. We can get resident input. we can talk to residents about these kinds of things, but I can think of other streets where specifically Queen Street comes to mind. Queen Street South comes to mind for me, where the experience of those individuals were showing in the video, every single thing that they said applies completely to Queen Street South. You can't walk down Queen Street South 2 people at a time because the sidewalks are so narrow. You can't speak to people at their doorways on Queen Street South, and the traffic is mayhem there. And children have to cross it constantly to go to school. And which section you're in on Queen Street, children are crossing that street to go to school. And so how do we assess, when we're reporting back on these things, what tools do we have to assess that? Apart from going around talking to people about it, do we have a way to say, okay, there's a school here, we're going to go down and do some kind of monitoring to determine if there's an issue here? Like, how do we actually do that work? Because I don't understand that, because it doesn't always show up in the reporting back about these things. So I'm trying to understand what tools we have to measure it, apart from gaining feedback from, frankly, people who may or may not be engaged in the process, right? It's not always easy to engage with the city about things. You get something in your mailbox, you don't see it, there's a notice, someone comes by, you're not home, whatever it might be. So how do we measure this as professionals?
Director.
Through the chair. So maybe I can start, Councillor, and listen, I think it's a good conversation that needs to be continued as we look at the equity, diversion, inclusion lens, and there's a lot of good work that's been underway with regards to that. You know, the division deals with data. We're very data driven, and a lot of the analysis we do needs to follow, at least in our lens, and how we do decision making that's transparent and it's being applied equally everywhere. We use a lot of data driven decision making on whether we're implementing something or not, and we provide that reasoning to why we're doing something. So as an example, we've got our annual collision report that comes out annually. There will be one coming forward. We're targeting the end of this year, or it might be Q1 of 2026. The annual collision report speaks to all of the issues across, whether it's vehicular, pedestrian, cyclist. It highlights all of that information for the city of Hamilton. And from that, we draw on trends. We draw from that the different analysis of things that we need to do out in the corridors, whether it's an intersection that's got a high incident of something, whether it's a stretch of roadway, and then things are ranked. And those things, again, based on their severity, are put into our work plans, which is what we action as part of our annual budgeting process that we bring forward to committee. So that's one strategic lens of how, when we're dealing with safety and our holistic view of the city, we're trying to prioritize things from most severe to least severe and put them into work plans. So that's one avenue, for example, of how we bring that information back to committee and council, and then again, it's approved through the budget process. We work with our colleagues outside of transportation on complete streets, so our planning piece. Anything that's going into a major redesign is to be following a complete streets design guideline, which transportation and myself in particular are very passionate about. It's for all ages, all users, and all mobility. So that's putting infrastructure in place on roads that were never designed or constructed for that to now be built for that form as we move forward. And that happens through the reconstruction, again, a capital budgeting process, and working with our colleagues in planning and engineering. So those are just two, strategic things, whether it's from the policy that starts at the forefront into how we take all that data. We work with MTO, we work with Hamilton Police Services. There's those partnerships that are there, and that's how we're trying to communicate to committee and council on where we need to invest our dollars from a road network perspective.
Thanks, and a lot of that, I think, falls along what I would call traditional public works lines of quantitative data analysis and reporting around financial measures and the kinds of inputs that we have for budget processes. I guess what I'm hoping to see going forward especially is because places like Queen Street South, as an example, went through a process, and that process happened in the last term of council. In order for this organization to then turn its mind back to Queen Street South is going to require not only a long time, because there's other projects in the queue, but it's going to require a lot more investment to sort of do a reconstruction project there. What I'm hoping we'll see in future reporting is a gap analysis. If we don't have the qualitative data we need, if we don't have the tools to necessarily measure those equity outcomes, and if we're not doing things to determine or identify where we see dangers for vulnerable road users, I think we ought to just say that in our reports, though. Like, just write in there, say, we weren't able to complete an analysis here. Because it seems like as an organization, reflexively, we understand there are gaps, or understand we're not all the way there on certain measurements or tools. I think it's important to highlight that and say, okay, here's where we don't have some information that's missing from the analysis. I think that would help us a little bit, just to identify that it's been thought about, people have reflected on it, and we're not quite there yet. So just some feedback, thanks.
Councillor. Second time speaker for 7.3 is Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you. Apologies to my colleagues. I don't wish to belabor this, but I do want to kind of respond to the gap, which I absolutely acknowledge exists. With respect to Aberdeen and Queen Street South, some history on that. In the early 2000s, mid-2000s, people in wards 1 and 2 primarily, they decided to take it upon themselves to provide for some qualitative and quantitative measures of what life is like as with children, without children, as a senior, and not a senior. They did what was called a community grassroots environmental assessment, in which they walked those routes and clearly and intentionally documented what they saw, how it made them feel, what opportunities existed. It is out there. Earl Kitchener Elementary School, the daily school route people work intentionally every year with the oldest grade, which is grade 5 in that school, and they get those students to document, how do you get to school? What would you like going to school to look and feel like? What do you have to avoid? They talk to the parents who want their kids to get that sense of physical fitness and independence that comes with being able to walk to school. We know it affects their performance, but it also affects their mental and emotional well-being. The caveat is always, it's not safe to cross Aberdeen. I can't let my kid walk to school by themselves. And that stuff is there. We just have to put a value on it. If we intentionally engage with people who don't have the time, resources, or are underage to come here and delegate. And that's who we should be building a city for. That stuff is there. And along with, I think we use a little bit of video analytics, which records the near misses, right? The avoidances, which we don't see reflected in our collision reports, but absolutely affects our well-being. Just wanted to add that comment. Thank you to Councillor Kretsch for raising it.
Thank you. And community involvement is so important. I think that's what drives the city to a better place where we are. So thank you for that. Okay, Councillor Tatterson, but it's on 7.2? 7.2.
Yes, thanks. Just some questions on the chart on page 3 of 6. It's table 2. I'm trying to understand what I read. I remember it said 16 of 19 were primary effluent overflows. I understand what that is. My question, then they said there was 2 out of 19 were tertiary bypass overflow types. I'm trying to understand what's the difference between a tertiary bypass overflow and no overflow at all? Like, what's the difference between those treatments?
Director?
Through the chair, Carrie Vanderperk, Director of Watershed Management. I'm going to pass this question over to Deb Goudreau, who's our Manager of Plant Operations.
Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair, Deborah Goudreau, Manager of Plant Operations, and I appreciate the question. This is a funny year for us because our terminology completely changed from how we've historically been reporting. So a tertiary bypass means that a small portion of the flow that got to the tertiary plant just tipped over a weir, so it didn't actually go through the filters, and then remixed with the rest of the effluent. So whereas full treatment would go through the filters in the tertiary building.
So can I ask then, if it goes over the top, does it still get treated later on, or does it just go out into the environment?
Yes, so it would, through the councillor, it would, or sorry, through the chair to the councillor, it would, so it receives treatment all the way up to that tertiary process, and then it doesn't receive that tertiary treatment.
Okay, thanks so much then. And I'll take that up offline. Just one other question then as well. Well, two other actually. It says preliminary effluent overflow without disinfection. How's that different than just a raw overflow?
Thank you, through the chair. Primary.
Preliminary.
Preliminary effluent is effluent that actually goes through our bar screens and our grit removal. So if it had no treatment at all, it would not have that screening and grit removal. And the difference between chlorination and no chlorination is a seasonal requirement for the city to chlorinate their effluent during the summer months where we don't have it in the winter months.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So one last question then. Of that one preliminary effluent overflow without disinfection, how much of that went into the environment?
Through the chair, so that was a large storm event outside of our disinfection season. So we would have still fully treated up to 614 megaliters that day, and anything over and above that would actually not have the secondary or tertiary treatment. So it's the in excess of 614. I don't know the exact volume for that day, but I can certainly get that for you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that as well. And then just one final clarification for me, and I know the answer, but this is for public consumption. Sure. 1 megaliter equals 1 million liters, correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't see anyone else. So point 7.1 and 7.5, and we will, did we receive it? Yep. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Okay. So, okay. Okay, all in favor, please show of hands then. Okay, thank you, and it passes. Okay, items for consideration. PW 25072, internal facilities of special event, including traffic control plans as per Ontario Traffic Manual. OTM, Book 7, and implementation of temporary road closure for event organizers. May I please have a mover and a seconder to put it on the floor? Councillor Wilson, Alex, and Councillor Kassar, thank you. Is there any discussion? I don't, okay, Councillor Alex Wilson, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I do have a couple of questions. The first being, with respect to the charge, is this being presented? So if I'm a user group, I have a seat approved event. As a result of it being seat approved, is there a further cost? Or if I kind of fall into the small event category, are these just fees that my organization now doesn't have to pay because it's being comped as part of that seat application? So from the user group's perspective, is this now a free service being provided and therefore it makes it easier to hold events like this in the small category?
I don't know if there, just a moment.
Through the chair, Carolyn Ryle, Director of Transportation. So, Councillor, I just want to make sure I was understanding your question correctly. So, when any event goes through the seat process and putting in their application, they will have a number of fees, whether it's permit fees, insurance fees, other road closure fees that they will need to incur. What we're proposing with this report is for the small event closures that the city, through transportation, will hire a contractor just to do the Book 7 closure and any drawing or requirement that's required with that. Anything in addition through the application process still will be a cost to them, save and except for this is what we're proposing. Was that clearly answering your question, Councillor?
Yeah, just maybe to be really blunt about it. So there's not going to be an additional fee for service to cost or cover that amount. We're like subsidizing that amount for these events.
That's correct. That's correct.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that was the original purpose, was to pass on savings to event hosts. My other question, I'm seeing that of the large events, just trying to do some math here, but I'd say maybe under a quarter. So the Stony Creek, kind of Boots in the Creek, the Barton BIA, the 2 Dundas downtown events, kind of linked to a BIA or an activated area. And so we have other touch points with those organizations is why I'm drawing them out. And then Remembrance Day, there was 6 of that large event. So given there's not that many of these events, I'm just wondering, given the recommendation focused just on small events, is there any opportunity from staff's perspective to say small events, say, plus Remembrance Day events, or small events plus collaboration with BIA on a couple marquee events? Is that maybe part of a build out in future years? Hearing that we're talking about a pilot, I'm just trying to understand the distinction between a small and a large event and how these recommendations kind of come forward, given, you know, things like Remembrance Day, for example, are very city supported already and are a substantial portion of those large events.
Director?
Through the chair. So thank you, Councillor. Good question. So when we were looking at the different events with the many different departments of the city, and the SEAT group is here with us here today, we were trying to delineate the size and the scale and the complexity of, you know, doing something between a small and a large scale. From an appetite perspective with regards to not, we'll say, disrupting the current status quo with staffing and all of the other work that we're doing, for example, with other initiatives, we're proposing through the pilot to try the small and then come back with a report indicating how that worked. Right now, currently, the larger ones from a complexity, a safety perspective, insurance and liability, we're not proposing to do those, but the Remembrance Day, for example, depending on the size and scale of those, that's noted. We can take that back and maybe report out if there's an opportunity on doing something that's smaller scale related to those events annually, that we could maybe try to incorporate that or what that might look like as part of this process.
Thank you. Does that answer?
Just a final comment from me. I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. Really excited about some of these changes being proposed. I would personally anticipate 3 years down the road of this, or 4 years down the road, that new events may have a door and they go and they have an external body, or they're doing something outside, especially those larger events. But for some of our historic events that have a history of kind of keep going on, or Remembrance Day events that the city's already such a big partner in, I'd personally like to see a bit more of a transition to finding maybe one-off or individuated ways to support those, understanding can't do everything in 1 year. They're unique events that require unique support, but I'd certainly like to see more in-house support for some of those in future years if we consider as a council expanding this direction, but really appreciative of the recommendations and the proposed pilot. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crutch, please. Oh, Councillor Crutch.
Thank you. Yeah, as the original mover of this motion, I have a few questions about it. And I want to say, firstly, thank you for including the motion as an appendix with this report. I know it's a minor procedural thing, and everyone on the internet's not going to be very excited about this, but I think it really provides important context to have the original motion with the resultant thing, so we can see what was in there, who moved it, what the context was, without trying to have to find it. So I'm extremely appreciative of that. To that point, I think there's a couple of things that I thought about when putting this motion forward, and especially when I was talking to Councillor Taddison as my seconder. There were 2 real main thrusts here. Number one was, what are the costs? Right? So is it costing us more to go out and do this? Could we do this work internally? Right now, I don't think we've quite answered that question, because I think what you're proposing here is we're going to continue to contract out this service, but for small events, we're going to absorb the cost of that with respect to OTM Book 7 closures. And so we don't quite have that that costing at this point. Is that accurate to say that?
Director?
Through the chair, so Councillor, the report is, so what we did is we looked at the last number of years to determine how many small events versus the large, and then the one that are the events that sort of, if I got the right language, it's running. running events like the parades. What we did was we took an estimate of the number of those events, and then what we did was, based on the cost to do the closure and to actually get the Book 7 paperwork done in place, like the drawing and that, we estimated the dollar amounts in the report. I think it was $2,200 to $2,400, and what we did was we rolled that up to put in a dollar amount for the 2026 capital budget. So we have identified right now, as part of the pilot, a rough estimate based on just previous years of the number of events and what the cost would be for us to hire a contractor.
Right, but we don't have a cost for what we do internally if we wanted to absorb that work ourselves. We may. It may be in there, and I just missed it, which is...
Through the counselor, staff just indicated, counselor, it is on page 8. We do identify staffing, internal costs, and that related to this.
Give me a second, if you don't mind.
Councillor?
Yeah, just give me a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Count the seconds
Give you
if
2
it's helpful.
seconds.
Sure. Right, I guess I'm trying to make a direct cost comparison here. So if you could just, I'm looking at this page, I'm reading it, I'm usually good at reading, I'm just not understanding it maybe, and if you could explain it to me, perhaps I'd appreciate that. So if we have a cost comparison for contracting it out, what's the direct cost comparison for those same events to do it externally? Or do it internally, apologies.
Through the chair. So just going back and trying to consult on what we put into the report. So for the small events, we do not indicate that we need any new additional staff. We indicate that there'd be a minor capital cost for equipment for us to go out, like barricade the roads. We indicate that as a capital cost, but there's no headcount that we've identified here. The report speaks to other, we'll say, risks and liabilities with regards to us overseeing it using the current staffing complement versus having a contractor do it on our behalf. That's what we identify when we're talking about staffing constraints. So we don't put down costs, for example, in each of those paragraphs. We're telling you the constraints, if we were to do that, how it impacts our business. So you're correct. We don't indicate that in those different categories.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a really key finding for me, and hopefully out of this pilot, that's what we get. I want to understand what the cost differential is if we do this in-house versus us doing it through a contractor. It's one thing for us to absorb the cost and internally facilitate the activity, which is one activity, which is what we're talking about here, and something totally different to try and analyze and understand what it would be to do the work in-house. The reason I ask is because, in part, in Ward 2, we do this work in-house with the Woodgate that we installed this past year. So with the Woodgate installation, we actually have a team of folks who are nearby in that building who often facilitate the road closures on King William Street, especially during the summer, during the closure, and last summer, right? They're doing that work already. Somehow they've managed to absorb that work and do it as part of their work. What would that look like if we were to do that more broadly? I think also another thing we need to consider when we're looking at this is the costs of policing with respect to that versus where there's a requirement or a hard requirement. What's really missing for me is understanding where there's a hard requirement. And what I mean by that is when you have the SEEK committee all sitting around talking with one another about an event, you have police, you have public health, you have fire, you have all different kinds of folks that are there. And the conversation, as far as I understand it anyways, I've never been to one, but I've talked to enough people who've participated and I've talked to staff who are involved, is it's technical in nature, but it's also subjective. So sometimes there's generally speaking, a safety concern, or generally speaking, we've traditionally always done this way. We've always had police closing the intersections and so on. Okay, great. That makes sense. But what I'm looking for, and I've been trying to get, is a direct mapping to the OTM Book 7 requirements, right? To see, in this situation, we're absolutely required to do this here. In this situation, we're not. And so how do we look at that analysis and say to ourselves, okay, is it more cost effective to have individual staff hired on to do this work in place of paid duty police officers where it's not required? Because of course at certain intersections it's required and we pay the cost, which is quite a bit, to have police officers stand there and do that. There are other instances, I've personally been there, when I know it's not necessarily 100% required, but we still have someone there from police and the cost is quite high, whereas paying someone at city staff would be a reduction in costs. So that's really the outcome I'm trying to get at here and have been trying to get at is how do we understand the cost differential? What does it look like to have it? I get what all the things we've said here are about the reasons we stopped doing this in 2013, but we're having a lot more events than we were having then. We're closing the road much more frequently. We just closed again the road on James Street in Ward 2 for an event over the weekend. We're doing it more often, and we want to do it more often. So we want to make this more accessible to people and easier to people. And the number one cost I hear people kind of talking to me about with respect to CEF applications is the cost for paid duty police officers. So what we're doing also is we're paying through the City Enrichment Fund to organizations an amount for them to pay to police to, like, it's this kind of strange never-ending cycle that's a cost transference. And it seems to me there's a way to really save quite a bit of money if we did it a different way. So I'm grateful we're going in the right direction here. Again, I think trying to pilot this for small events and see how it goes, understanding we don't have the capacity, but if the pilot, when it comes back, if we could have a really thorough reporting on all these things and get a true sense of how much it would cost and put it in front of us, what are the dollars and cents? And if it's more expensive, good to know. And if it's less expensive, amazing. And then if it gets done before the budget process, which I'm hopeful it will be, then we can have a chance to perhaps roll this into the budget process, change some of our procedures so that it makes more sense for not only the city from a cost perspective, but event organizers. That's also what this is about, is trying to say, how can we make this simpler for event organizers? Is there a one-stop shop through SEAT that can get this done so people can run their events more smoothly and equitably? And I think small events are a good way to start because those folks are probably at the highest hill to climb in terms of trying to have an event, because it's usually just the folks in the neighborhood or whatever it might be. Anyways, thanks for the report. That's my feedback, and hopefully the pilot will give us that information.
Thank you. Director, do you want to add on to something?
Sure. So Councillor, thank you for your comments regarding the small event. So we'll take that away, and as part of the pilot, we'll come back with costs associated with staffing and all of that as you've requested. I just want to note, though, when we were talking about when the SEAT application comes in, there is the OTM Book 7 that does identify criteria. And whether we're using HPS or staff, we're just following what the OTM Book 7 is regulating us to do through that criteria as part of those reviews. But we're happy to bring that back for the small events, and then there'll be a further debate on that in conversation.
Yeah, and if I know that you've limited the scope of this pilot to small events, and I'm not here to quibble with that and try and change it on the floor. And I think it's again a good start going in the right direction. But when we come back, I'd like a holistic response, because I think that was the whole point of this from my perspective. Just saying is that getting a response on small, medium, large events. What's the cost? You've identified risks. How do we overcome those risks? Right? How do we get to a place where we can do some things I see other cities doing, which I think make it a bit easier? I know there's a mixture. Some folks do less than we do. Some folks do more than we do, right? Some folks use buses to help with control mitigation measures. I'm looking for a report back on all that, what it will actually cost us in terms of FTEs and operational dollars, so that we can just make a frank assessment of whether it's worth it or not. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. I don't see anyone else on the speakers list, so we have a mover and a seconder. So do we? Yeah. Okay. And show of hands. Oh, it's electronic. Oh, this is our first one. Oh. All right. It's going to take time to come on. Oh, that's pretty quick for being our first one. There we go. Okay, so it's 13-0. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on. 9.2, Glanbrook Landfill Cell CD&E Contract Administration and Inspection. May I please have a mover and a seconder to put the report to the floor? Councillor Patterson, Councillor Wang, thank you. And Joel McMorker is here. Director of Waste Management is available to answer any questions. Councillor Patterson, please.
I know we went through this at the waste meetings, subcommittee meetings, but there's a little bit of an anomaly here in the sense that we're asking for money that for work that's already been done. So can you kind of explain some of that for us so that we have a better understanding of what it is that we're asking, why we're asking, and why this company deserves it?
Director McCormick, please.
Through the chair. Hello, everyone. My name is Joel McCormick, Acting Director of Waste Management. So in this circumstance here, there's a few, when I say more than a few, really, factors that came into play with this work here. So you'll see through the report that this work was done through 2 different contracts, the first contract being terminated, and WSP, being the consultant, is required to continue with the work and to support the city through the investigative and through the inspection process of the construction work. So with this here, we had a couple issues that came to play. And without getting into too much of the details from the legal perspective, or the legal side of it, we ran into a problem with the WSP, our consultant, not having or providing specific invoices to the city for a period of time. So staff did go through, request any type of information or financial information that they may have, be able to provide to us so that we're able to track and get ahead of any issues that we could run into from the budget or financial perspective, and which they didn't. And so we were also in a situation where we couldn't necessarily stop the work and had to continue through because WSP was supporting us through the initial contract termination and any adjudications that followed that. In addition to that, with the second contract, we found some work that needed to be redone, and therefore WSP as the consultant we needed to expand that scope of work as well for that support.
Thank you. Councillor Tatterson.
And was any of the additional costs the result of poor working and weather conditions at the site as well?
Yes, through the chair, yes. We have a portion of the financial ask, or the portion of the finances that were as a result of unfavorable working conditions at the site, weather, and also some problems that were found with the second contractor's work.
And so just to reemphasize, once budget information became available, everything was okay?
Yes. So yes, once the budget information came available, staff reviewed in detail, negotiated with WSP to a cost that we felt was reasonable, and which is brought forward to you today.
Thank you for that. No more questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, we will require an electronic vote. Okay, it's 12-0. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to 9.3. This is Upper Wellington Street Municipal Class Environmental Assessment. This is Limage Road East to Stone Church Road East, Ward 7 and Ward 8. Okay, as this item includes a staff presentation, I will now invite staff to come down to the podium to address the committee. And please introduce yourself as staff. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Salvucci, and I am a Senior Project Manager with Engineering Services. The presentation today is to go over the general high-level summary of process and recommendations stemming from the Municipal Class Environmental Assessment process that we've carried out for Upper Wellington Street to look at roadway improvement options. In today's presentation, we will go over an introduction to the project, including an overview of the study area and key planning considerations, the municipal class environmental assessment process that was followed and some of the results, and then what the next steps are. The Upper Wellington Street Municipal Class Environmental Assessment looked at Upper Wellington Street from Stonechurch Road to Lime Ridge Road. From Stonechurch Road to Tower Crest and Sorrente, the current cross-section is 2 lanes with 1 through lane in each direction. No active transportation facilities. From Tower Crest and Sorrente Drive to Lime Ridge Road, the cross-section is currently 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction, sidewalks on both sides, and no cycling facilities. Improvements to this corridor have been planned for a while. So planning documents dating back to 2000, so whether it's the South Mountain Area Transportation Master Plan, the Citywide Transportation Master Plan, or the Cycling Master Plan, there's been recommendations for roadway improvements. So between the planning documents and the capital program, which identified this road for reconstruction, we proceeded to carry out the municipal class environmental assessment process following the Schedule C process to incorporate roadway improvement options in the upcoming reconstruction works. The Schedule C municipal class environmental assessment process follows 4 planning phases, which we'll go over in today's presentation, and then a 5th phase, which is implementation and covers detailed design and construction. Phases 1 and 2 for this project have actually already been done through previous master plans, but through this project, we've reconfirmed and reassessed to ensure the recommendations are still valid in today's context. So starting with phase 1, which is the problem and opportunity statement, we re-reviewed existing information tied to Upper Wellington Street and confirmed that many of the issues still are accurate today. So these issues entail things like active transportation. So the corridor has very inconsistent facilities, no cycling facilities, and sidewalk for only portions of it. It does not account for the future needs of the corridor, particularly for traffic and transit needs. And then for stormwater management, as you can see in the image, the cross-section is currently unurbanized. And with the stormwater quantity and quality needs, we need to implement some stormwater solutions along here. So that brings us to phase 2, which is the alternative solutions development and analysis. For phase 2, 4 options were reviewed, and these were assessed against 6 core criteria, and that includes transportation, socioeconomic environment, natural environment, cultural environment, engineering and technical, and cost. Based on these core areas, the initial recommendation was to go ahead with a improved Upper Wellington solution, which focused around a 4-lane cross-section, and you can see that in the top picture on the screen. However, phase 2 also is when the official public engagement component starts for the project. And so as part of this, we had a public meeting and posted the materials online for those who couldn't attend or who wanted to re-review materials after. And from this public engagement, we heard a lot of community feedback, and that focused around 2 key issues, one being property impacts and the other being impacts to existing trees. So the team took that information back, took a look at the alternatives, and we decided to adjust it a little bit. I'll go into more detail on the next slide, but as a sneak peek, you can see in the second picture a 3-lane cross-section. So based on the feedback we heard, we actually went ahead and divided the corridor up into 2 different segments. Segment 1 is from Stonechurch to Tower Crest and Sorrente. Segment 2 is from Tower Crest and Sorrente to Lime Ridge Road. So as mentioned, we listened to the community, and we feel that a 3-lane cross-section for segment 1, from Stonechurch to Tower Crest and Sorrente, still addresses all technical requirements while minimizing the impacts that were flagged by the community. For segment 2, this was actually also impacted by this decision to go ahead with a 3-lane cross-section. One of the reasons why we were looking at roadway widening options was to improve access to abutting properties and future developments. On the screen, you can see segment 2, for the most part, is actually a structure and a bridge, meaning that there's not really any turning movements that have to happen throughout this piece. So with that in mind, and we took a look at the traffic movements going from the Sorrente and Tower Crest intersection, looked at impacts to traffic movements in the area, and determined that a road diet, reducing the lanes from 4 to 2, would have minimal to no impacts on traffic through this area. And instead, it would actually have benefits where we'd be able to incorporate complete streets elements over the bridge that we don't currently have today. So with that in mind, we ended up going forward with the 2 different solutions. So for segment 1, a 3-lane cross-section. For segment 2, a 2-lane cross-section. And that brings us to phase 3 of the environmental assessment planning process, which is the alternative designs analysis. So during phase 3, a number of different corridor elements were assessed, including the road configuration, active transportation facilities, and intersection design. For both the road or lane configurations and active transportation facilities, these were assessed against 18 different criteria. For intersections, we assessed them on a feasibility and needs basis. So through this assessment, this resulted in the recommendations or the recommended design for segment 1 to be an expansion from 2 lanes to 3 lanes, 1 lane in each direction and a 2-way center left turn lane. And for segment 2, a road diet to a 2-lane cross-section with 1 lane in each direction. It also resulted in the recommendation for sidewalks on both sides of the road for the whole corridor, off-street bike lanes on both sides of the road for the whole corridor, and the urbanization of the road to include curb and gutter. Over the next few slides, I'll go into more detail about the rationale and benefits of going ahead with this direction. So the first is that this allows us to be in alignment with complete streets. The proposed design includes a sidewalk and off-road bike lanes on both sides of the road, and these features allow a higher level of service to active transportation users. It also connects or allows for an easy transition from this segment to south of Stone Church Road, where there's on-road bike lanes. These works also support transit use, as it allows transit users to use the sidewalk or the bike lane to get to and from bus stops. And we've preserved space in the right-of-way for more formal bus stations along this corridor. The roadway design has also been adjusted, so instead of the current lane widths, we're going ahead with 3.3 meters, which is in alignment with complete streets. 3.3 meters minimizes speed or can reduce speeds, but also still allows for transit use along the corridor. And then the last key element is green infrastructure. So the decision to do stormwater management infrastructure, the preservation of existing trees, and the identification of additional planting opportunities all help ensure that this corridor has resiliency and sustainability. The next area of consideration, as with any transportation project, is safety. So through this project, safety has been addressed in a number of different ways. Having dedicated facilities that are off-road allow or ensure that the road's most vulnerable users are safe and away from the traffic that's built, the vehicle traffic that'll be driving through. The addition of a center left turning lane ensures that turning movements are able to be made in a safer manner. And the narrower lanes and the addition of curb can help reduce speeds, which benefit all road users. And the last key area is addressing the key challenges we heard and saw along the corridor. So as mentioned, the existing conditions were some of the key concerns with a focus on both natural and social environments. So the key concern we heard for natural environment was, again, the preservation of existing trees. Having the 3-lane cross-section for segment 1, we feel does address this need. It reduces impacts on trees overall and allows for planting opportunities. In terms of the social environment, we wanted to focus on being accommodating of all road users. So looking at the context area, there's a retirement home at the intersection of Stone Church and Upper Wellington. There's a church midway through that has families walking back and forth. So we wanted to be aware of facilities that would allow for users to use them regardless of age or ability, and we feel that the sidewalk and separated bike lanes address that. And then lastly, obviously, the property impacts going with a 3-lane cross-section has less of a footprint than 4 lanes. And this brings us to the final design recommendations. So for segment 1, the 3-lane cross-section with off-road bike lanes and sidewalks, and then for segment 2, over the bridge, 2 lanes with off-road bike lanes and sidewalks. And that brings us to next steps. So right now we're at Public Works Committee and Council stage. Should approval be received to continue on with the final stages of the environmental assessment process, we'll then proceed with the notice of completion and the 30-day public review period. During this time, we'll publish all of the technical reports publicly, so both online and in 3 physical locations. Following the completion of the 30-day review period and the resolution of any Section 16 order requests, we would then proceed to detailed design and construction. And that concludes my presentation for today. Thank you for your time.
Is there any question from the committee? Councillor Cooper, please.
Chair, thank you for this presentation. Just as you know, that's there's going to be some pretty active development, some pretty significant intensification. You know, number of towers could be anywhere from 10 to 20 stories, maybe beyond. Looking at this, how does what you're planning take that into account? We're talking about a road diet. We're talking about what could be like, you know, maybe 2,000 more people just in a very small area. We know Stone Church is very limited, is already congested right now with the current volumes we got. Just interested in your thoughts on how this is going to accommodate that intensification that's about to happen on that street.
Through the chair. Great question, and that's something we thoroughly did assess through this project. We're aware of the development applications. When we started this, some of the initial transportation master plans recommended up to a 5-lane cross-section for this segment. So we did take it back and look at it. One of the considerations was, again, property impacts. So while 5 lanes would be great in theory, some of the properties along there, not even just property lines, but the structures themselves are extremely close to the road, which is a huge physical consideration and constraint. The second is the narrowing of the road at some point. So whether it's during this study area or south, it does go down to 2 lanes either direction. So particularly that section over the bridge where it's currently 4 lanes, that capacity doesn't carry through, and it's going to have to be a pinch point one way or another. I didn't get into it in the presentation, but another comment we heard was just the complexity of the Tower Crest and Sorrente intersection. People felt the elevation changes there added a complexity when you're trying to decide which way to turn and merge at the same time. So we felt that actually moving the merging point back to Lime Ridge would be safer and would kind of address some of those concerns, seeing as we couldn't really change the elevation of the road. So to compromise on that, that's why we're putting a focus on elevated active transportation measures, making sure there's actually bus stops that can be reached by people in the community. A lot of users along there talk about walking it frequently versus driving through. So acknowledging the role that Upper Wellington plays in the transportation network, I think we were okay compromising on the road widening, knowing the function of the street to the immediate residents.
It's interesting when we start looking at this holistically and you start looking at Rymal, which comes to a pinch point, Rymal Wellington, 1 lane. We got a pinch point at Stone Church in Upper Wellington. We got a pinch point over on Upper James. And so we got all these pinch points around, but you know, I'm not really getting how the flow is going to work, okay? Because now we have another pinch point in Upper Wellington. We're saying we can't really expand it because of impact on properties. And so I'm not really feeling too comfortable that we're going to be able to get the traffic through that area that we are planning, and then you start moving over to Upper James where we're doing intensification as well. And so just how this whole flow is going to work, I don't know if there's any recommendations coming out of this that addresses Rymal or Upper James or Stone Church, or are we just going to leave that the way it is and try to manage this through active transit? Now, the other thing we're mindful of is a lot of these people leave the city in the day, and active transit sometimes, well, actually usually doesn't work too well when you leave the city, right? So just interested in your thoughts in terms of anything else that flowed out of this for some of those other major roads.
Through the chair, I can confirm that there are plans to widen some of those roads. So Rymal Road is currently in the works. The environmental assessment was completed earlier this year, and we're looking to move it forward to detailed design soon. So it's going to be a phased approach, and this section at Upper Wellington won't necessarily be constructed right off the bat, but it is in the plans. Overall, though, as part of this project, we did use system-wide modeling to make sure that traffic flows throughout the city weren't impacted by our decision, or that we were proactively supporting the needs for this corridor. So we did do the modeling, we did future modeling, and it did not show a huge or significant impact on it through these design plans.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson, please.
Not my ward, but very familiar with the area. I take it quite often to get down to Lime Ridge Mall through the back way. I just wanted to ask, between Tower Crest Drive, Sorrente Drive, and the Lincoln Alexander Parkway, I'm assuming that there's going to be a left-hand turning lane for the active transportation onto Tower Crest. Are there any entrance ways beyond that that would require traffic to stop between Tower Crest and the Lincoln Alexander Parkway?
Through the chair, just that intersection, there's no on and off ramps there. So from Tower Crest and Sorrente to Lime Ridge Road, there are no access points.
Well, that alleviates some concerns that I have. So thank you very much for answering those questions. I appreciate this report. But I do share some of Councillor Cooper's reservations.
Thank you. Councillor Beattie.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Mine's more of a process-oriented question because I've heard a lot of conversation here that pertains to future development, future plans, growth-related activities. We've sat through this presentation here at Public Works, but we've also, a lot of us have sat through similar presentations through the Planning Committee. And what I'm trying to understand is what is the decision-making process that goes into whether or not it's going to be engineering through Public Works that undertakes this study, or if it's going to be through growth engineering through the Planning and Economic Development Division that undertakes the study, because I see a lot of similarities, almost duplication. I don't necessarily want to use that in a demeaning term, but I'm trying to understand what allows one department to take primacy or leadership over a particular file versus the other, and whether or not, well, first off, that's the question. The second question being, are you guys talking to each other? Because I would have thought that this would be more of a growth-related process, and I'm actually a little surprised to see it coming through Public Works as opposed to PED.
Thank you for that. And GM Kennedy, can you?
Jackie Kennedy, General Manager of Public Works. Thank you for the question and the observation of the similar processes that you've observed. To answer the question, we do talk to each other. We've got Director Hollingworth here from engineering, and Director Malloy from planning is also here because there is interest and overlap between these projects and between the different departments and the divisions, and as SPM Salvucci has articulated between the projects themselves too. So we look at how they relate to each other. But I'll hand it over to Director Hollingworth to add to that as he sees fit too.
Yes, just Brian Hollingworth, Director of Engineering Services, formerly Transportation Planning, so can speak to both sides. There is a lot of interplay, and just because Megan's presenting it doesn't mean that Engineering Services was the only folks that were involved. It goes right back to the master planning level and the development of the transportation model, which is led by Steve Malloy's group, and that citywide transportation model, for example, includes as best as we can estimate growth for 2031, 2041, 2051. That then feeds into the environmental assessment. There's multi-stakeholder groups that all weigh in on the different trade-offs, and that includes folks like forestry and HSR, et cetera. So I would say it's a very collaborative process with respect to these environmental assessments.
Sure, just a quick follow-up, Chair. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm still trying to figure out what is the decision point that says Public Works takes the lead versus the decision point that says PED takes the lead on a project like this. We've undertaken this in Stony Creek recently with the Barton and 50 Road. That was wholly done through PED. This just looks very, very similar, done entirely, from what I can see entirely, and there's collaboration, but done through Public Works. What chooses who goes on this journey?
Through the chair. In general, this is an existing corridor that's being improved, so it's best fit with engineering services. Often we also take the ones where the underground infrastructure is being upgraded or rehabilitated as well, versus some of the environmental assessments. A great example, which you mentioned, the Barton and 50, that was initiated by or led by Growth Management, largely because it involved a lot of an emerging area being Stony Creek, Scooby. Some of the AGD ones as well, where it's more of a greenfield type development, are led by Growth Management.
Thank you for that, Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Kassar?
Thanks, Chair. Just a brief comment. I want to say thank you to staff for this work. Really taking a look holistically at the corridor and all the needs of different kinds of users. It's within a couple kilometers of Lime Ridge Mall. And we know, and those who spend a lot of time, as I do, kind of nerding into cities and how people move, we know that a lot of trips in our city and other cities are very short, and they're just a couple or a few kilometers. And that puts a lot of cars on the road, and giving people options on different ways to get there makes it better for them, gives them options, and it makes it better for people who still need to drive. So I think that's what we need to consider here and think about, is that when people have options on different ways to get around, they can take them safely. And that's what this is doing here. And also more density just makes public transit more effective and more feasible, which is another way to get around. So I think we need to think about that as well and consider that we're giving more options, which is not going to generate more necessarily congestion of cars, but more congestion of people who are going to get around and shop local businesses and stay healthy by moving around by their own power. So let's just keep that in mind as we think about this, and I'm very supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think, because there's a lot of questions, and I have a lot of questions as well, but I think we should defer this to, and I like Councillor Beatty, what he said. Does it go to planning? Where does it fit here? We're not sure. So I was wondering if we could defer it to maybe planning, and we could look at it again, or back to Public Works. And you will have a motion. Councillor Cooper?
Yeah, I'd actually like to refer it by staff back to include consultation with the ward councillors further.
Yes.
Sorry, just the referral and deferral motions can only be moved by people who haven't spoken to the matter at hand.
Well, I didn't speak to it, so I'm moving it.
No, Councillor Cooper was just moving it. So the point of order is that deferral and referral motions can only be moved by people who haven't spoken to the matter.
Okay. And I didn't speak to the matter, so I'm going to defer it myself then, because I do have a lot of questions. I know the area very well. It's I've been around that area for almost 50 years, so I know the area very well. So we need to defer this to another time. So, Councillor Alex Wilson, did you want to say something?
Through you, Chair, I would like to speak, but I want to confirm what the matter on the floor is, who's in the acting chair, who the mover, the seconder, like some of those pieces. So when we have an item, I'd like to get on the list.
I will move the deferral to... Okay, there's a Councillor Francis, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. You take the chair?
I've got the chair, yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Pauls.
Councillor Francis has the chair. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Francis has the chair. We're all friends here. Do you know that? Okay, so I'm going to defer. Okay, before I do my motion, but I said I was going to do
There's nothing on the floor, like there needs to be a mover and I'd like to discuss this item. I'm against it personally, but I'm going to wait to be on the floor before I...
On the deferral, right?
Hold on.
Okay. You go.
Councillor, are you moving a motion here?
Mm-hmm.
And what is your motion? Go ahead.
The motion is to defer this item, 9.4. Is it 9.4? Where am I? 9.3. I'm moving it to go to the planning committee or back to Public Works, wherever I see fit, wherever it's best, so that all the questions and that Councillor Cooper asked, that I have, could be addressed.
This would be a referral motion, not a deferral.
Through the chair, it would depend on what the councillor would like to do. If she wanted to go to planning, it would be a referral. If she wants it to come back to Public Works, it would be a deferral.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if GM Kennedy, do you think this should be going to planning?
Oh, there's no seconder.
Is this? Do you have a seconder for this motion,
Okay,
Councillor?
who's the seconder? Councillor Beatty.
Okay.
I'm not clear on what the reasoning to move it to planning would be. This is the typical process that we've followed for this type of environmental assessment, is that it is at Public Works. We're relating to infrastructure that exists to move forward with the plans that have been developed through the consultation over the last several years as the environmental assessment has been progressed.
Thank you very much. And we'll move it to Public Works then.
So a deferral motion to Public Works. So would this be the next meeting of Public Works? Or do we have a timeline for this?
What is the next public?
The next Public Works meeting is November 10th?
Okay. That's fine. We'll do it for November 10th. We'll refer it to that. So Councilor Beatty, seconded.
Okay, so that motion is on the floor and that is moved and seconded. Do we have a speakers list to this? Okay, Councilor Wilson, please.
Thank you. I think some things have been clarified, like it's very typical to have road-related things come to Public Works. I would point out that we had the Garner Road expansion in front of a Public Works committee recently. I heard from councillors at the time that it was really important not to delay that work because growth was coming and there was a congestion problem today and we simply couldn't afford not to proceed with it. Yeah, I appreciate if local councillors want more time with a file. I think our colleagues are, I'm hearing from lots of folks around the table trying to understand what's the time going to get, what questions are trying to be answered, where is this going, because there are potential impacts to a delay on the decision. And so I'm just maybe offering to the ward councillors to think about what are the changes they're trying to make. Is it trying to get understanding? Because this is a motion to put something out for a 30-day review as well. And then there's a part B to the motion, which is to go along with it. So if this is a delay, can this be at the 30-day review? Just some thought about what the impacts to a potential delay are is really my comment for food for thought, but happy to leave it there. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Wilson. Next up, we've got Councilor Nan, please.
Thank you. There we go. It's working now. Appreciate the quick huddle on process clarity. If I could get just crystal clear on the direction for the deferral?
Sorry, this is a deferral motion. This is referral. Apologies. It's a referral motion. And
can I just get the language nice and clear? I'm sorry.
Perfect.
It takes me a little bit of time to hear the procedure, where it's coming back, and any further clarity in terms of direction to staff, please.
Sure. Could we have that up on the screen, please?
All I hear is the Jeopardy music in my head, but okay. Deferred to the next PW meeting on November 10th. Thank you. And is there any further direction to staff other than just deferring the direction? Is there any specific direction to staff?
Mover?
No, there's not. It's just that we want to look at it once again.
Everything as is paused, and we'll come back to the agenda on the next meeting?
We'll come to the agenda and we'll have the question. Now, Councillor Cooper, if you want to add to it, because, he has a lot of questions and I think it's proper to do that. So
no, I'm just trying to get clarity about deferral with directions to staff. I don't see any listed in the motion, so I'm clear about that now. Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, to staff. Implications of the 30-day timeline and deferral, any significant concerns from staff's perspective? Thank you.
Through the chair, so we would not proceed with the 30-day review process until after we get Public Works Committee approval, so all of that would follow.
Got it, perfect, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Nan. Councillor Maureen Wilson is up next.
I appreciate the clarity, the further clarity brought to this. I just want to go back respectfully to the reason for the deferral, because I think that will be really helpful, and I think it's helpful for transparency. This has been, if I did try my best to listen intently, the history of this is significant. There has been a public process that has been followed. There has been significant engagement that is all documented. And so if the purpose of the deferral is to enable the ward councillors to have additional time to sit down and go through the material, is it possible that you could make that time between now and council so that this committee can act on this, and then that gives you that window? And if I could ask that question through the acting chair.
Yep. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor. As you know, we just had an election for Ward 8. This is Ward 7 and Ward 8. I don't know if you've been on Upper Wellington.
Oh, yeah.
There is chaotic. It's chaotic there. There's a big church that's building a huge expansion. There is a nursing home with 8-story high. At the corner, there's going to be high rises. And here we have a 2-lane with a middle trying to put bike lanes, trying to do whatever. I think it's incumbent of myself as a Ward 7 to give the gracious time for Councillor Cooper to look at it as well, since we share. And I wanted to ask a couple of questions, but because I wanted to move the referral, I didn't ask. There's a couple of questions that I have to have the answer, and obviously I could email them to you and you can let me know, but it's up to, I'm doing it as graciously for Councillor Cooper.
So, Councillor, you're suggesting that 1 week is not sufficient for you to get these answers. You need the 1 month
November
deferral.
10th.
Okay. I hope that helps, Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you. Herein lies the challenge. If the intent is to revisit the recommendations, then that could be done during the 30-day period, depending on what the public expresses in response to the recommendation. And that is the legitimate process that we have followed, will follow, and is transparent in its process. That way, everybody is on the same playing field, and it's done publicly. There's a public account. There's a public record of it. And I think that is in the interest of trust and transparency. I'm not suggesting anything untoward, but while I do respect the fact that there has been a by-election, having a conversation to redirect is not part of an established EA process that all other projects have had to follow, will have to follow, and it provides for clear public documentation and rationale. And that is respectfully my discomfort, that if there's further churning to be had on this, that is the whole purpose of the 30-day engagement period. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Councillor, moving on to Councillor Cooper, please.
Thank you, Chair. As many members around this table will know, that there is a conversation going on right now in terms of what that intensification will look like. Unless someone has a crystal ball, nobody knows how that's going to land. So we're going to be making decisions on whether the developments, the intensification is going to be half the size or double the size that some people on this table think it's going to be. And I find it quite remarkable that people have enough information right now to make a decision on the road network around that intensification. We've had this discussion a week ago about some of the other intensification on Upper James. I wasn't comfortable with what I'm seeing in the master plan. I wasn't comfortable with any answers I heard. So that's where I'm asking for more consultation with the ward councillors, that we've taken this into account, because when we make this decision, it's a pretty final decision. But the variables that are going into this decision, they're not concrete, okay? They're not concrete. They're still trying to be figured out, and that's not going to be figured out till next April. So I just think we need to take a step back and get all the information we can to make this decision.
Thanks very much, Councillor. And last on the speakers list, we've got Councillor Taddison, please.
Hi, just up to the presenter. I thought I heard you say the original preferred solution was 4 lanes. Is that correct?
Through the chair. Looking at previous planning documents, it recommended up to 5 lanes, but through our analysis and what was feasible, the initial solution brought to the public was 4 lanes.
Sorry, we're not debating that right now. We're debating the motion to defer. Is this related to the motion to defer?
I guess, well, to me it is, but if you don't see the connection, I see it's like in the presentation, I'm trying to understand how many people were involved in those PICs that altered staff's decision.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Through the chair. So at the first public meeting, we did show a 4-lane cross-section. Following comments received, we had about 50 comments. We then went ahead with a 3-lane cross-section, and that role plan was shown at the second public meeting. So materials tied to the second public engagement opportunity, which was late 2024, show a 3-lane cross-section.
Wanted to get clarification on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Next up, we've got Councillor Kretsch, please.
Try to follow on what Councillor Maureen Wilson was saying, just from a process perspective here. Just want to make sure I understand what's happening. A motion to defer will see the exact same report return here on November 10th. That gives opportunity for anyone who wishes to make an amendment to the report or other kinds of actions to the report to do so in public. And that, I think, is the intention here. My understanding is people want to go away. They want to sit with staff and ask some questions. But staff's not being asked to change the report here, and they can't be. That's not how a deferral works. It'll come back in the exact same form. So I'm seeing nods from people. Makes sense. Just want to make sure I understood that. Thank you so much.
These microphones are delayed. I appreciate that clarification, Councillor Kretsch, and that exhausts our speakers list. This has been moved and seconded. We'll have that electronic vote. Vote is up. And that deferral carries 11-2, and the chair is back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, 9.4, Cannon, James to Queen and York, Dundrum to Caroline Reconstruction Project. Request for an additional funding in Ward 1 and 2. May I please have a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Nobody wants to move it? Councillor Kretsch, Councillor Taddison, Councillor Wilson, there you go. Thank you. Councillor Maureen Wilson and Councillor Kretsch. Any discussions? Councillor Kretsch, please.
Thanks very much. And I just wanted to ask a really simple question about how exactly the origin of where the funding for this originally came from. I don't think it was from any type of area rating. I think it was from the main operating or capital budget for the city. I'm just wanting to make sure that I understood that correctly.
Chair Brian Hollingworth, Engineering Services. That is correct. There was a few different sources of funding, including some federal funding, but nothing from the ward reserves.
Okay, thank you. That's my only question.
Thank you. Councillor Cassar, please.
Thanks, Chair. So as I understand it for this report and the next one, money's being used from other projects that were under budget. So I just wanted to understand the process for when a project is under budget, because is how that money is treated, because we're reaching into it and we're using it to offset the needs. I get that. I understand that, not objecting to that. But that money was sitting there in several projects. So what would have happened to that, if it can describe the process, if it wasn't being reallocated to this project?
Through the chair, this finance would be able to do a better job of answering this, but the short answer is if there is a surplus and it's determined a surplus, that's looked at as part of the regular reviews, and that surplus goes back to the unallocated capital reserve.
Finance isn't here to answer that. So if this opportunity or this situation hadn't arisen, then all of these monies would have gone into unallocated capital reserve, at the end of this annual process. Is that correct?
Director?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you. That's it. There's no one else on the list, so 9.4 we'll have e-vote, please. And it's 13-0. Thank you. 9.5, Concession Street, Mount Brown Boulevard, Upper Gauge to Oakcrest Drive Reconstruction Project. Request for additional funding, Ward 6. May I please have a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Councillor Wang, Councillor Spadafora. All right, and any question? I see Councillor Beatty, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I would be happy if any other councillors have comments or questions on this to see, because I do have an amendment that I'd like to bring before our committee, and some comments on that would be, I think, helpful with context and backstory that might be assistive. But if nobody else has questions, then I'll...
There's no one on the speakers list, so you could go ahead and enlighten us.
So from a procedural standpoint, and thank you, Chair, through you, I've got an amendment. I'm happy to give it in advance and then speak to it, or to speak to it and then bring the amendment forward. Look to you as Chair or the LC to determine what would be most helpful.
At the will of the chair.
Okay, so you're going to do an amendment to this?
Correct.
Okay.
I can share the amendment on my screen.
Can you please share the amendment?
I guess we're going to start with the amendment. I'll put it up to the screen, and my apologies to committee members. I think I submitted this at about 5 after 1 to the LC and wasn't able to circulate it in advance. My thanks to Director Hollingworth for some frantic phone calls over the weekend to try to land this. I hope that lands cleanly. It's always my intent to bring forward something that doesn't come across as messy. So I'll wait for the amendment.
Okay.
Well, there you go. Comparatively.
Is everybody going to read it? You're going to read it?
So I can read the amendment. Essentially is trying to take the original staff recommendation, which would now be known as Part A, and add Part B, C, and D. Part B being, and I'll just read it directly off the screen, the Public Works staff expedite design and construction of approximately 400 meters of sidewalk from the intersection of Grays Road and Community Avenue over the QEW overpass to the intersection of Francis Avenue, and that staff report back to Public Works Committee by the end of Q4 2025 with possible non-ward specific funding sources, and the General Manager of Public Works or designate be authorized to secure any applicable permits and approvals from the Ontario Ministry of Transportation as it relates to the critically important pedestrian safety enhancement project. Now, if I may, Chair, go back to the beginning. A lot of commonalities, I think. First off, I'm building off of this because one of the funding sources that is referenced here is a project that was recently completed in the ward on Grays Road. The context of that project was sidewalk installation to provide safe passage that's been identified for a long period of time, people being able to go from Barton Street north into the Stony Creek Lakeshore community along Francis Avenue corridor. Members of the committee will recall we did a bus tour many, many moons ago. And it was one of the very first things that I pointed out was the six overpasses that span the QEW in my ward, 5 of which are ill-equipped with no pedestrian infrastructure whatsoever. I would also add that these infrastructure pieces, these overpasses were built in about 1967. So we're 55 plus years. And multiple revamps, rebuilds, still no sidewalks, still no sidewalks, still no sidewalks. And I have been banging the drum for the need to have these installed. Recognizing it's not all going to be done at once, but also recognizing that as we continue to grow as a municipality and people try their best to adopt healthy lifestyles involving walking, getting from point A to point B in this stretch of the ward is becoming increasingly difficult. And I would make reference to one of the overpasses, it was the Winona Road overpass, where a resident of Ward 10 was struck by a car, mirror clipped her arm, ended up being hospitalized as a result of that. It was over 1.5 years ago. So when this Grays Road project that is referenced here with the surplus was brought forward, I engaged with Public Works staff to have a conversation about how do we extend this project to encompass the full span, going from Barton Street right over the overpass right to Francis Avenue. And unfortunately, I was told for a variety of reasons, scope, budget, et cetera, it just wasn't feasible to do at that time. And I accepted that. The problem is we've now come back and seen that this project ran nearly a $700,000 surplus. And I'm finding it very frustrating and very difficult to see that there was such a large amount of money left over from this project that in my mind and to my residents' mind could have been used to accommodate some kind of extension of sidewalks. And in the conversation I had with Public Works staff, I actually said verbatim, let's just keep building sidewalks until the money runs out on us. Well, the money never ran out. Apparently, there was a massive surplus. And so I find it very difficult to sit here and just not speak up on behalf of the community and say, this is a 400-meter span. It goes from one side to the other, understanding complications with MTO ownership of the existing infrastructure piece, but it's not something that we can't get over. It can be done. I credit Director Rael for moving a lot of things forward. Her expertise in dealing with the MTO has been invaluable. Really lamenting the loss of that knowledge base when she goes on her merry way. But we can't continue down the road of ignoring the situation with these overpasses in Ward 10 that people are getting hurt, going to get hurt, and here we have a surplus that's being transferred off to somewhere else. When to my mind, in a very simplistic way, in the minds of the residents in Ward 10, some kind of phasing could have been approached. Come back with a part 2, come back with something. But those options were never given. So I'm hopeful that this is taken as a respectful amendment, but I really need to light the fire that we need to come back to this community and signal that we take this seriously, that we're going to get sidewalks installed over the overpasses. Fine to use the residual amount from this particular project, send it off into the ether and have it fill the gap that is clearly identified and clearly needed as part of this recommendation. But we got to get these damn sidewalks built. And really, in plain language, I'm hoping that this is the catalyst that will allow some firm direction to take place. So with that, I'm hoping for universal acceptance of the amendment. I'm happy to take any questions and go from there.
Thank you.
I'd be trolling for a seconder also.
Okay.
I've got Councillor Wilson. Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Maureen Wilson. And okay, any questions? I don't. Okay, it's not. Councillor Kassar.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have listened to Councillor Beatty explain that. Very helpful. Probably would have been better to have the explanation first before the motion, but here we are. It's okay. So yeah, very supportive of what you're trying to do. Absolutely. I just want to understand the actual ask now. So the amendment, here's what I think it is recommendation A is going to go ahead as planned. So take the excess money from Grays Road, apply it here, and then ask for additional funding from a non-ward source to build the sidewalks you've spoken about. Through your chair, do I have that right?
That is correct. There was a conversation that I had with the director where some new sidewalk construction funding was referenced. I failed to recall specifically what those accounts were, hence why I'm asking for a report back with some options. Ward 10 does not have a discretionary account. We don't have an area rated ability to do something like this, so I am relying heavily on a global capital investment, and that's why it's worded as it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Understood. So it's going to get more information and then a decision point in the future on where to fund it.
I'm hopeful that the direction is to move ahead with design so that we are able to come back here with a funding source and complete the project then with design already being handled in parallel to what we're doing now.
Okay. And then just one point of clarification then, is the anticipation it's not a 2026 levy funding source?
I suppose that will have to be part of the recommendation that comes back from staff, but from what I understand, there are existing envelopes of funding that could be utilized for this, but that will be part of the deliberation that comes back. And I don't want to speak for staff. If Director Hollingworth has an ability to fill in, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Correct. And we appreciate the councillor giving us a little bit of time to bring back to budget questions. But as mentioned, there are some sources, there's heavy demands on them, but there's something called a new sidewalk program, and there's other items that we can look at and just provide a clear picture of how this might be funded. And we also appreciate the direction to hurry up on the design.
Thank you. You're good? Okay. I don't see any other speakers, so we're going to do an e-vote on the amendment. Okay, so it's 13-0. It passed. So 9.6, service level change for hanging basket program.
Madam Chair, the main motion is amended, please.
Okay. Okay, the report is amended. Thank you. Okay. Another evo. And it's 13-0. Okay, thank you. 9.6, service level change for hanging basket program citywide. May I please have a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Councillor Kretsch, Councillor Kassar. Thank you. Is there any discussions? Councillor A. Wilson, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, just a couple of questions about the implementation plan. My understanding of the review was to address two main concerns: the inconsistency in the condition of brackets across the city, ensure from a risk management perspective this is a safe program, it's being maintained. I don't have so much questions on that side. And then the other aspect was an equity amongst BIAs and making sure we have a sustainable funding formula so that there's a consistent level of support across our city. Now I'm looking at the report, I'm reading the recommendations for the short-term pilot, I'm reading through the report, and when I get to things like site selection criteria, when I hear about the desire to not have kind of 2 baskets versus 1 larger basket, some of those other pieces, can you, through you, Chair, are staff able to comment on how that's going to balance with the equity consideration? So is every BIA getting a budget? It's noted in the report that each BIA is so different and is programmed differently. And so I'm wondering, what does that next step look like? Is everyone getting the same budget? Is it going to be an individualized agreement? How is that equity piece going to be considered, given that one of the recommendations is to treat each BIA individually?
Okay. We have Cynthia Graham, Director of Environmental Service. She will answer that question.
Good afternoon, Cynthia Graham, Director of Environmental Services. So I'm going to start, but we also have Robin Pollard here, Manager of Forestry and Horticulture, who has a lot more details and workings with the BIA. So in essence, we are looking to implement the hanging basket program in a safe and responsible manner. In some cases, that means that places where there were hanging baskets in past years aren't eligible for that specific spot on the pole, usually because there's conflict with regulatory signage. So that application of the site selection criteria is for all locations where we're installing hanging baskets. For BIA specifically, we work with them to determine what their requests are in year to year. They provide us with a budget that we can work with and respond to their desires and needs for the program. And I'll just ask Robin if she has any additional context.
Yeah, Robin Pollard, Manager of Forestry and Horticulture. Through the chair, what I would add to that is there's no obligation for the BIAs to opt in or opt out of our services. That is completely within their discretion. The beauty of the way that we've built this out is that the BIAs can utilize horticulture's services at a cost recovery model, but they can also go above and beyond that. They're getting a good product, a good city product, I think, for a fair price by going through us, but they're certainly not obligated to do so. So it gives them a little bit of flexibility. And in the conversations that we've had with the BIAs, each one is individual, and the flexibility was appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. So through you, Chair, equity across BAs being maintained by everyone has the same ability to opt in. It's a fee-for-service model, so everyone has the same pricing, but if one BIA wants to go with 100 baskets and one wants 10, obviously there's a different level of participation, but that not necessarily a different level of support. Just a final question from me. What is the order of implementation? So for example, there's a conversation about double baskets versus single baskets, the sizing of brackets, and the conversation about signage. Obviously, road signage follows provincial rules where it can go, but sometimes there are options. That sign could be on one of 2 posts. Are those decisions being made by city staff, and then we're going to the BIA to say, here's where you could have eligible planters? How many of these do you want? Or is the BIA MOU process being front-loaded in operations?
Director?
I'll take this one. Through the chair, the BIAs are given the opportunity to come to us, and we engage in that conversation. So some of them have a strong want to say, you know, we want 17 over here and 13 over here, and then we go out and we look at that and understand what the implications of putting them there would be and whether or not it's feasible. And Councillor, you're absolutely correct. There may be flexibility in signage, and we can work with the transportation group to ensure that, you know, we're not losing hanging baskets in areas where they're feasible and there's a sign that could be moved.
Thank you. So it's up to BIA to reach out to horticulture forestry to have these conversations about maybe what their goals or their vision is under the program, and this program's talking about the level of support that'd be available to them in those conversations. Is that a fair touch point? Is the next step is for BIAs to reach out about their goals?
No. So what happens every year is that we reach out to each one of the BIAs through the Planning and Economic Development, so Christina Geisler. oversees that back and forth. So we utilize Christina to engage with each one of the BIAs, and at that point, we can go through what we did the previous year and what they'd like to see the next year.
And just seeking confirmation that when that conversation happens, the decision about how many, like I know these are small things, but just making sure the decision's not already made, like whether it's 2 baskets or 1 basket on a hanger, the sizing of the basket, are those going to be pre-decided when that gets brought to the BIA for decision? Or is that the starting point to have those conversations in that touch point? I'm just trying to understand, given the order of these decisions and given that we're procuring things from an external provider, they need to know what they're planting for. Does the BI still have input when that conversation happens, given the cycle of procurement?
The initial conversation is the starting point.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anyone else, so we're going to do a e-vote for the hanging baskets. And it's 13-12. He had his thumb up as he was coming in, so. Yes?
Revote.
Do you want to?
Just add you?
Just add in? Thank you. So it's 13-0. Okay, 9.7, amendment to the outstanding business list. May I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the changes to the OBL? Councillor Spadafora, Councillor McMeekin, thank you. And it's any discussion? I don't see any. We're going to vote. Thank you. And it's 13-0. Thank you. We're going to go to our favorite part, motions. 10.1. Councillor Kretsch, would you like to introduce your motion? And do you have a seconder?
Yes, I would. And my seconder is Councillor McMeekin. I'll save us a bit of time by just summarizing instead of reading it out directly. And I'm just going to encourage any and everyone to please do that today. Instead of reading it out word for word, it's on the agenda. And this is about winterizing Jackie Washington parks. So, no, it's not winterizing the park. That's a lie. It's winterizing the washroom in the park. And so right now we have a washroom at Jackie Washington Park that has had some damage, other kinds of issues, or some theft, things that have happened over the years. The washroom is not operational. And so we want to dedicate funding to making the washroom operational. And then thankfully, Director Graham said, hey, we could also winterize the washroom. That's a great suggestion. I think it's important to keep that washroom open as much as possible. We don't have many washrooms downtown at all, and certainly not in this area whatsoever. So that's the attempt here from Area Rating Reserves to winterize the washroom and make it more accessible to people. Thank you.
That's great. So the Jackie Washington Park washroom winterization. Great. Okay, it's an e-vote, please. Voting. And it passes 13-0. Thank you. 10.2, installation of speed cushion on Pamela Street, Ward 15. Councillor McMeekin, would you like to introduce your motion? And who's your seconder?
My seconder is Councillor Cooper.
Councillor Cooper, great.
My latest best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh boy. So like Councillor Kretsch, I'm not going to read it. It is resolved fundamentally that Pamela Street be given speed bump. There was some correspondence from Mr. Baker, who doesn't live on Pamela, by the way, suggesting it wasn't very democratic. 78% of the residents have signed the petition, and Mr. Baker, who is a frequent commenter, also wants to increase speed limits on all residential streets in my ward, and I don't think that's a good idea. So I just flagged that because we were accepting his correspondence as well, and I just want to go on the record as supporting this because in a democracy, we listen to the people who live on the street that we're taking action on. That's my presentation, and I'm confident that the horseshoe will, the speed bumps to protect the safety of families and kids. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, I know why Mr. Cooper is your best friend. You have someone beside you now. You had an empty seat there, so he's a good guy. Okay, let's go on Evo, please. And it's 13-0. Thank you. 10.3.
Chair
All right.
Pauls.
Installation of speed cushion on.
Chair Pauls, we need a motion and a mover and a seconder to receive the correspondence with a show of hand vote.
Oh, okay, show of hands. Oh, for the correspondent, right there, thank you. Show of hands. Correspondent respecting, same mover and same seconder, please. And this is from Gord Baker. Everybody, show a hand. It's carried. Thank you. It's 10 votes, so we're going to move on. 10.3, installation of speed cushion on Regal View Drive and Carpenter Avenue. It's Ward 10. Councilor Beatty, would you like to introduce your motion? And who's your seconder?
Certainly. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Mark Tassim from Ward 11. I'm going to skip to the be it resolved that the Transportation Division be authorized to install one speed cushion on Regal View Drive between Glencrest and Shadeland Crescent at approximately 4345 Regal View Drive, and two speed cushions on Carpenter Avenue between Lincoln Road and Green Road at approximately number 18, number 32, 34 Carpenter Avenue as a traffic calming measure and part of the Transportation Department's speed cushion implementation installation program. All costs be associated with the installation of traffic calming measures be funded from the Ward 10 minor maintenance account, number read out there, not to exceed $9,000, and that the General Manager of Public Works be authorized to do all the stuff to make that happen. The 2 points that I just want to make to committee, these are at two different streets in two different areas, and my thanks to Manager Mike Field for consolidating them for brevity and allowing us to move more quickly on this. On Regal View, this body has previously approved a motion they brought forward for Regal View, which was north of Glencrest, and then what happened later on, members of the community south of Glencrest said, oh gosh, that sounds like a great idea, we'd like that too. And another petition was circulated, which has brought about this change on Regal View. On Carpenter, I'd make note for all members of the committee, Carpenter is the street that comes off of Green Road that accesses Eastdale Elementary School. Two speed bumps were placed further west of Lincoln Road on Carpenter as part of one of the Transportation Department's internal programs for speed bump installation near schools. Unfortunately, the portion to the east of Lincoln was not included as part of that, and residents have identified that there's some real need given that we do have a 30-kilometer-an-hour speed zone on account of the school zone being there for Eastdale Elementary. So this will solve that problem nicely, and looking forward to universal acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beatty, and we will go to a vote, please. And it's 13-0, thank you. Okay, 10.4, improvement of Dominic Agostino Riverdale Community Center, 150 Violet Drive, Hamilton, Ward 5. Councillor Francis, would you like to introduce your motion? And who's your seconder?
Yes, that's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Beatty, and I'm going to try the new method today here. So This motion is about improving the hub of our Riverdale community. This property in many ways is the heart of our neighborhood. I've spent a lot of time here over this last summer and saw just how important this space is to residents. And right now, the way the current building is, it doesn't feel inviting, it's closed off, it's unwelcoming, and we want to change that. We want to make this a place for people are proud of. And following the crime incidents over the summer, the police and the community partners agreed that when the space looks cared for, the community takes better care of it too. And the plan includes exterior painting, updated signage, a community garden, a youth room, and this is all aimed at giving this new rec center some new life and increasing its potential and creating something that the neighborhood can truly be proud of. So I just want to thank Public Works staff and Recreation staff for helping me draft this motion, especially the rec staff who work here at this location every day. And when you go there, it's immediately clear this isn't just a job to these people. They're deeply committed to serving my community, the Riverdale community, and engaging with our residents and helping them make this a true gathering place. And I'm really proud to have them in my ward.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. All right, we're going to go for e-vote, please. And thumbs up from me. (13-0). Okay, we're going to move on. 10.5, installation of speed cushion on Lake Avenue Drive, Ward 5. Councillor Francis, would you introduce your motion? And who's your seconder?
Yep, it's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Beatty. And this is a petition on Lake Avenue Drive with 83% of the homes there requesting 2 additional speed cushions on this stretch of road. And we're going to, as outlined in the motion, make them the same as the current speed hump that's there, which is a little bit different than the standard one. So there'll be 3 on Lake Avenue Drive now, and they'll all be the same.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to have an e-vote. And it passes 13-0. We're going to move on to 10.6, ward-wide review of active school travel, daily school route, Ward 12. Councillor Kassar, would you like to introduce your motion? And who is your seconder?
Seconded by Councillor Wang.
Councillor Wang, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Whereas no one else read their motion into the record, I will not do so either. I was just looking for Councillor Kretsch. Sorry there. We started off this meeting with a delegate and a topic of kids being able to get to school safely. And this is, as we wind down the meeting, this is continuing that topic, putting a bookend on it. Daily school route DSR is well known to many in the city. They've done a road safety or DSR full ward review in wards 1, 9, and 10. And this motion will have them engaged to do the same with all the schools in Ward 12. So that is the motion here, to engage DSR to engage the Ward 12 schools and families for a ward-wide review of active school travel that follows their established process to assess and co-design school routes and provide an actionable report with opportunities for improvement to be outlined in short-term and long-term plans.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we're going to go for an e-vote, please. Thumbs up for me. And it's 13-0. Okay, now we're going to notice a motion, lest we forget Remembrance Crosswalk. I love this. Mount Hope. Councillor Tannison, please introduce your notice of motion. Will you be seeking to suspend the rules?
Yes, I'll be seeking to suspend the rules for the Lest We Forget Remembrance Crosswalk in Mount Hope. And the reason is I'm hopeful that it could be completed for this year, and staff is suggesting that that might be possible if we enact on it today.
Yes, this is important. So first we're going to go to suspend the rules.
Oh,
Who's your seconder?
It's my friend, Beatty.
Okay, Councilor, I think you started this, so Councilor Beatty.
I just didn't see that I needed a seconder for the notice of motion, sorry.
Okay. So this is to waive the rules to introduce the motion. And thumbs up for me. So it'll be 13-0. Do you want to speak? Oh, it's an e-vote. Okay, it's 13-0, and Councilor Patterson, now you can introduce your wonderful motion. And who is your seconder?
Councillor Jeff Beatty.
Councilor Beatty, okay, great.
So I'll just jump down to therefore be it resolved that the Transportation Division be directed to assess the feasibility, design, and cost estimate for the installation of a Veterans Remembrance Crosswalk at Homestead Drive and Airport Road West in Mount Hope for Remembrance Day 2025, that staff consult with the Dominion Command of the Royal Canadian Legion to obtain any necessary approvals for the use of poppy or other commemorative imagery within the crosswalk design unless already covered through previous contact. That the price will come from the Ward 11 non-property tax revenue account, an upset limit not to exceed $8,000, and that if installation cannot be completed in the time for Remembrance Day 2025, the project be scheduled for completion in 2026, and that the Transportation Division report back to the Public Works Committee and Ward 11 office with final design details, costs, and implementation timelines once approvals and scheduling are confirmed. And I'll just say quickly, this intersection in Mount Hope is probably one of the most fitting places for such a memorial. Up the road is the airport site of the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum, and 25 meters to the south of the intersection is the home of the 447 wing of the Royal Canadian Air Force Association. That's a not-for-profit community service organization composed of veterans from Canadian Allied Forces as well as aviation-minded public members. So I hope that I can get your support. Thank you.
You'll have our support. It's important. All right. Councilor Beatty.
I just want to very quickly, and I'm going to say the same thing. We have a companion motion coming forward from the Dundas community. Offer my thanks again to outgoing Director Carolyn Ryle. We started this in Stony Creek at the Cenotaph at Highway 8 and King Street last year. Last year, I think we did it. And it's been replicated now on the Center Mountain, at Waterdown, soon to come to Mount Hope, soon to come to Dundas. Also, through the leadership of our public works staff, Kurt Mulligan and Mike Field, in the transportation sector, Sydney and Maple Ridge, British Columbia, Cochrane and Airdrie, Alberta, Big River, Saskatchewan, Carleton Place, Petawawa, Clarington, East Gwillimbury, Centre Wellington, Peterborough, Belleville, Greater Napanee, Prince Edward County, St. Thomas, LaSalle, Welland, Port Colborne, Ontario, as well as Stewiacke, Nova Scotia. Coast to coast, and it all started here in Hamilton. Very, very proud of the work that was done, and thanks to all involved in that. Happy to support.
That is great. Hamilton's on the move. And you started with the Councilor Beatty. Thank you. All right, we're going to vote. Oh, Councilor McMeekin.
I take a second to thank the pioneer who launched this.
Yeah.
And it's been a very popular thing to do. We have 2 crosswalks, I think, going in next week in Waterdown. We put it on our Facebook page and had over 1,000 responses. Some for as far away as Europe. We just picked it up randomly, I suspect, and said, hey, what a great idea. We're going to do this in Paris. We're going to do it in, so, hey, Founding Father, thank you.
The design's so beautiful, so I'm looking forward to mine. It's coming soon. So I think in a couple of weeks. So that'd be great. Thank you. We're going to vote now. E-vote, please. 2 thumbs up for me. And it passes 13-0. Thank you very much. And now is adjournment. We don't need to, What? Oh, wait, oh, sorry. Are they, oh, excuse me, I already took my plug out. No, okay. Is there any other notice of motion?
Thank you. I'll be
wasn't
moving
written,
the same motion. Councillor Beatty's the seconder. We'll be waiving the rules. I'll keep it brief because it's a repeat.
Okay.
So I'm the mover. Councillor Beatty's the seconder on waiving the rules for
Okay.
a crosswalk, and I'll wait for that to go
Okay,
forward.
so crosswalk too. Okay, thumbs up for waiving the rules, please. No, oh, electronic, yeah, I don't have it written. This was a last-minute motion, so, okay, so it passes 13-0. So now on your motion, Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah, it is identical to the motion previously discussed. The funding source is a Ward 13 funding source, and the location for implementation is adjacent to the Dundas Cenotaph, about 100 meters to 400 meters away from the Dundas Legion, with thanks for your consideration.
Okay, and we're going to e-vote, please, everybody. Thumbs up and vote. Or e-vote. Thank you, and it passes. Have a great afternoon, and thank you, colleagues, for making this easy. 13-0. Thank you. Adjournment.